for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. I believe we can write our story.
All right, everybody. How's the day? How you doing? It's Gary Wise once again. Words from the Wise here to share today a story with a brother of mine from the United States Navy time. His name is Mr. Jody Schilling. He's a retired Navy warrant officer, and I'm looking forward to hearing how he got to where he is today and what he's got going on in life. So without further ado, Jody, what's up, man?
What's up, Gary? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good.
Good.
Matter of fact, I taught all day today about the end of World War II and going into the Cold War.
Yeah.
Right. And I was trying to share with the students about like the similarities in the world then and the world now, especially with like Russia, China, Korea, and just everything that's going on. But I love it. But at the end of the day, it's you're exhausted, right? 6 classes a day on the stick, just talking, right?
Keeping you busy, keeping you motivated, all that good stuff.
Oh, they do, man. They keep me so freaking inspired, man. These kids are freaking amazing, bro.
I spent my day in the morning. I work at Edward Jones now. I'm a financial advisor.
Very cool.
Just started, a couple months ago, but I really like it. It's almost, the same thing as recruiting, very similar.
Yeah.
And one of the guys I met during my field training, which is where you go out and talk to different, people already out there doing the job. And I talked to a guy, and he sponsors an ROTC at one of his high schools down where he's at. It's in the Ocala area. I can't tell you exactly which one. But today I met with his son at about 1:00 to talk to him about the military and see where his head was at. Because when I had met that guy, he said, I'm trying to figure out what my son's going to do. And he wants to make sure that he's on the right path. And the kid's smart. He's got a lot of different options. I don't know if he's going to go ROTC or if he's going to go to regular college, or if he's just, maybe that doesn't happen and he just goes into the military. Of course, I was talking to him about the Air Force and the firefighting certifications that actually count and get those guys hired. So I love to push that to him. I actually recently went to an Air Force boot camp graduation. I've never even been to Chicago's graduation, but I went to the Air Force one. When I graduated, it was Orlando. So I don't know where you came in, probably right after me, like 95, 96, something like that.
97. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I remember when you, I met you up at MEPS one time, and I think you got there as a DC-3, and I gave you the North Star. I don't know if you remember that, the study guide. I do. Yeah. So I was the first class, and I was like, man, this kid's out of his rate, sitting here trying to put people in the Navy, probably getting all the pressure in the world. Well, this will help him out a little bit. So but I remember that first meeting, and I was 2 hours from MEPS. I think you were a little bit closer. It was about 2.5 hours from MEPS, and you were a little bit north of us, St. Peter.
Yeah, I was in Clearwater.
Yeah, I remember. You had was Witzel with you guys, and maybe Vineyard and a couple of those cats.
Man, Navy Recruiting District, Miami, back in the heyday. That was a good time to be a Navy recruiter, though, bro.
Yeah, coming in right after unfortunate events of 9/11. I'll tell you something funny about that office. Your office. I went up there for some training, some rink training, and every night we went out, and we were steaming hard. There was always a kid at the front desk, and I'm talking to him, and he had like 6 years of college, and he's working the front desk, and then he had a day job. I said, dude, what are you doing, man? Why are you working here? With all this college, and you're working the front desk at whatever we were staying at, let's say, or I don't know, Marriott, whatever, nothing crazy. Yeah. And by night 3, that kid, I just gave him my card. I said, you give me a call when you're ready to go, bro. And no BS, man. 2 weeks later, the kid calls me, and he's like, hey, man, I'm ready to join. And I got a recruiter that's just killing it. And I said, all right, man, you need to go get that kid. And you know what he said to me? He goes, I got plenty of kids right here in my area. You give that to someone else. And I had them working Monday through Thursday. That was it. We weren't Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-day weekends. We were killing it. And I called your office, and I was trying to give it to Witzel, but I think Jay Vineyard ended up getting the kid. 96, nuke, everything. So, yeah. And it was funny.
Man.
just a weird situation. My guy didn't want to drive to get him. And then the kid rolls a 96 or whatever, super smart, new program, good for him. So I don't know if he's still in or not because I don't even remember the kid's name, man. I was coming in steaming every night.
I understand, man. Like so like you, I put a lot of people in the Navy during my time as a recruiter, but had no idea what I was really doing. Right, I was a baby, and it changed my life. Recruiting changed my life. Right, it gave me exposure to ideas and to thoughts that I would have never had exposure to before. Plus the confirmation that I needed to stay in the Navy for as long as I knew was as long as I knew I needed. Right, because I had this idea that I was just going to be out of the Navy and go open a bar with some buddies with small business loans. We were all going to be VA veterans, you know. Well,
Yeah.
coming to recruiting, I got exposure to the reality of the world and
Mhm.
what was really happening out there. And then I met my wife Erica on recruiting duty, and then away we went. And I started taking the Navy seriously, right? Because I mean, I was only a DC man maybe a year before I went recruiting and only 6 months in our division. They kept me in the pit for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So I got to my first ship coming out of recruiting with no understanding of even how to do damage control and needing to learn how to do damage control. And
Yeah.
then they put me right in ER9 because,
Yeah.
hey, that's where a DC2 needs to go, right? Thank God I was a DCPO for collateral duty in the pit. So at least I knew the maintenance. But hey, before we get into all that, bro, because we could probably go down all kinds of rabbit holes. And you know what's funny about Edward Jones? I looked at that, bro. I looked at that several times. My cousin does Edward Jones in Arizona. A
Mhm.
good buddy of mine does Edward Jones down here in Ocala. And I was looking at their programs when I was getting ready to retire because I was interested in personal finance. So kudos to you for getting involved with that because that's a great freaking deal, bro. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
They pay for your school. They pay you
Yeah.
while you're at school. And, they tell you your salary before you even start. So, I mean, all that stuff's all cleared up and it's good to go.
Yeah.
The schools were overwhelming at a point because I was like, man, I can't be sitting here 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, man. It was
Yeah.
rough. So,
Yeah.
those classes are tough. So you got to come in prepared and ready to go, or you're gonna be underwater for a while trying to catch up with your air.
Yeah. I
But
can only imagine.
I like it. I do like the challenge, and I like the idea of helping people set themselves up financially, for long-term success. And I did that in the Navy, man, with TSP, buying cars, buying homes, telling kids, look at these percentages, all this craziness, and keeping them, like I had kids telling me, I want to buy a second house. I'm like, hold up, player. You looking at the mortgage rates? You know where you're at right now?
Yeah.
And, actually, one of the last people I talked to was a CW05, and his wife was pushing him to buy a second house down in Tampa. And I printed it out for him, and the interest rate was like 5.5, and it's even higher now. And I said, Gerald, you'll be paying more for that house in interest than you will for the cost of the house. So he was going to pay $800,000 for a house that was $400,000, and he took that home, and that was the end of that discussion. So I saved him because he'd have been, sitting in a tight spot, 2 mortgages, crazy rates, whatever. But it's still crazy now. It's tough to be a homeowner with these interest rates. So.
It is. Yeah, adulting is hard, bro.
Yeah.
I tell that to the kids all the time. I'm like, y'all don't rush to grow up. Don't rush to make all these crazy adult decisions. Enjoy being in high school. Enjoy going to these competitions. Enjoy having lunch with all your buddies. Because I dropped out of high school at 15 years old. Like I gave all that up because I thought I had a better quality of life outside of school. I had no idea what I was giving up. So now my kids are going through it, and I'm seeing these kids go through it, and I'm always trying to remind them, like, don't rush, because now I've watched a full set go from freshmen to now seniors.
Yeah.
So when I got here in 2022, my first year freshmen are now seniors this year.
That's great.
And it's like seeing your babies go from their first time on your first ship to now they're getting ready to rotate. And it's super rare to get to see the whole experience because, in the Navy, you might only get 18 months with somebody. Almost probably never will you get 5 years with them, right? And it's very powerful to see the growth and to see where they've come from, and then to see also what's really going to end up happening, because everyone talks a good game until it's time to actually get out of high school and go to work, right?
Yeah. See who's winning.
Okay, brother. So let's get into this, man. Where did you grow up before you joined the service?
So I lived in Staten Island, New York, all the way up to my senior year of high school. And, I had delivered papers, stuff like that, which was good. I had the Air Jordans 2s and 3s when I was a kid because I could buy them with my own money. Parents were real young when they had me, so they were never together officially. So that was, I grew up with a single mom, 2 sisters. So she was always hustling to take care of us. We moved a lot, which was always crazy. But Staten Island, I'd always go back to the same neighborhood, where all my friends were, my cousin and my uncle and stuff like that.
Right.
Senior year, my mom wanted to move to Tennessee in a really, really remote area. And I was like, man, I don't think I want to do that. So I went to Riverdale High School down in Fort Myers. And those kids chewed dip and, wore cowboy boots and hats. I had a dice earring. They thought I was nuts. I thought they were all nuts. So it was what it was. But like you, I'm only about 5'6". I weighed like 118 pounds when I graduated high school, man. I was little. So my mouth couldn't cash no big checks. I'll tell you that much. But I always had the same mouth. So it is what it is. But yeah, I did it. I did a year of community college, wasted my time, knew I didn't want to be there. And then passed a couple classes, failed a couple classes, just kind of mediocre.
How'd you get to Florida, bro? You said your mom's going to Tennessee.
So my grandmother, my dad's mother, I used to go see her every summer. So I kind of skipped that point. I would go see her in the summer. She'd buy me school clothes, take care of me. And then I go back up to New York and, back to school up there. And that's just kind of how that happened.
Got it. Okay. So grandma was down there.
Yeah. My grandmother in New York took care of me. And then my grandmother in Florida took care of me. So they were really big in my life, my grandmothers. So that was a benefit for me. But anyway, I get down there, Riverdale, speed through that 1 year real quick. And then, 1 year of college at Edison Community College, which now I'm sure they call Florida College or something like that. I think the state colleges, whatever, Florida College. Anyway, I then was doing construction. I got an argument with this kid, and I remember everybody's names, so I'll try not to give up too many names. His first name was Joe. He had an old beat up Chevy truck, and his door wouldn't close right. This is so silly, man. We get to the red light, and a cement truck went flying by, and the door blew open. And he got really mad, and he said something smart. And I was like, you know what? If you fixed your door, bro, we wouldn't have these problems. And he said something else real smart. And I said, you know what? You can carry block at the next job. I was a mason tender. I was making concrete and carrying block all day. That's all I was doing. So I got out at that red light and walked to the Navy recruiting office. It was like 3 miles. That's how I joined the Navy, man. Real big, thought process, real prepared. Just walked in that sucker and said, hey, I'm ready to go. And had my grandma come pick me up. So
did you already have a pre-identified idea you wanted the Navy or did you just know the Navy was the closest one and you were making the move?
So I went to the Air Force. I called the Coast Guard. They hung up on me because I had so many traffic tickets. And then I knew I didn't want to go to the Army because my uncle was in Vietnam. He had 2 Purple Hearts. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ready to get shot yet. But I went and talked to the Marines. And they're pretty intense as recruiters. And the dude was like, I was in there for about 5 minutes, and he hit the table. You ready to be a Marine? And I was like, dude, I've been in here for 5 minutes. I'm ready for some more information. I'm not ready to jump out of the back of helicopters yet. But anyway, so then I went back over to the Navy recruiter and talked to him for a while. And he was a funny dude, Matt Langan. He actually ended up being a reservist, but he was good, and he was kind of laid back, and he, said, hey, man, this is what it is. This is what we do. I think they had like a Top Gun movie at the time or something in the back. That's the same office I recruited at it when I was a recruiter too. So I went right back to that office. But I had to wait. I was on probation, so I couldn't even go. So I had to wait till I got off probation. And once I got off probation, I was able to go, and that was it, man. And I was on probation for some dumb stuff, man. Nothing bad, but just dumb kid stuff, being dumb.
Hey, I can relate, man. When I landed in Clearwater to go to recruiting duty, I went to go buy a car. I couldn't buy a car anywhere because I found out my credit was so bad because of decisions I'd made as a juvenile delinquent, and I had warrants for my arrest in the state of Utah. I had no idea. I was coming back from overseas tour in Japan. I had to literally fly to Utah to resolve all that issues.
Ugh.
Just and so I can relate, right? And
Yeah.
I can understand. And it wasn't like I was freaking Scarface, right? I was just a juvenile doing dumb things. And
Yeah.
there you go. So when you joined the Navy, did you know coming in that you were going to be in damage control?
No, so that's another crazy story. So I only joined for 2 years. I told the dude I got a high, pretty good ASVAB score, 76 ASVAB, and the guy said, "Hey man, you're qualified for a lot of jobs." And I said, "If they don't have that 2-year job, I ain't joining." And I don't know if they still had it for you, but that was a 2-year seaman apprenticeship program. So I said, "I'm going seaman apprenticeship. That's it. I'm locked in for that. I ain't doing nothing else." And so I got it. I was like, yeah, I got my job, and you don't know any different because you haven't never been anywhere. You don't know. I get to boot camp, and I really enjoyed boot camp. I really enjoyed people getting yelled at. I enjoyed the push-ups. I thought it was so great that we were all getting cycled. None of that stuff really bugged me.
Yeah.
But then my company commander came to me. He's like, hey, I think it was water safety and something day. And he's like, hey, you got a high ASVAB. You need to go pick a new job. And I had dated a girl for a couple of years, and she had moved to San Francisco where her dad lived, and that's where A school was for damage control.
Right.
So I'm looking at all the cards. They had the cards at the time, and I picked like parachute rigger, postal clerk, I think aviation structural mechanic, and damage control. And right at that time, damage control was short people. They were giving $20,000 reenlistment bonuses right before you and I got in. I never got a nickel, but but I took that A school for 8 weeks because that girl was there. And she's still beautiful to this day, but never worked out. But anyway, at the end of the day, that was why I took damage control. Basically, 8 weeks in San Francisco.
Treasure Island.
That was a good place.
Okay. I love your thought process here, bro. That's why you made it such a good snipe, right?
Yeah, you just do what you do.
It makes sense, right? It makes sense. So when you graduated boot camp, how long were you in Great Lakes before you went to Treasure Island? Was that an immediate move?
I was in Orlando. Remember, right. I'm older. I'm an old dude. So I went to Orlando, one of the last people. I actually took the train to boot camp from MEPS. They used to take the train. And the girl left all of our packets on the train. And they were like, "Where's your packets?" I said, "She had them." I ratted her out right away, man. Funny. But no, so I was only there for 2 weeks. And then I went home for 2 weeks, and then I went to A school. But I want to rewind one quick thing about boot camp. Week 5, they did that. I don't know if you remember, the universal signal for choking was this. And I thought it was ridiculous. I said, how are they doing this? This is so ridiculous that they're doing this. Well, we were at a dress whites inspection, and a kid started coughing like real bad right next to me. And I came to attention, did a right face, and said, "Are you choking, shipmate? Give me the universal signal." And you could see my company commander at the side of his eyes. He went and like turned around and walked off like he didn't know it happened. But it was so funny, bro. And in my book, I don't know where it's at. It's around here somewhere. But my boot camp book, it says, "Are you choking, shipmate?" That dude wrote that in my book. That MTC, who was my company commander. So I was always crazy, man. I was always looking for trouble, and that was one of the funnier things I did at boot camp. But yeah, just 2 weeks. And a girl came home with me from boot camp because it was half girls, half guys. So she hung out with me for a couple of days, and then she went to where she had to go, which was Maryland, I believe, and then to Hawaii. But I really enjoyed boot camp. I would have stayed there forever, man. I would have did 4 years of boot camp. Wouldn't have bugged me none. So,
hey, when I look at the whole time I spent in the service, especially as a younger guy, I love that structure as well, right? Like I tell the students, and I tell pretty much anyone that will listen, I thank God every day for me joining the service and having that structure. Because up until I was a chief petty officer, and even then I needed it a little bit, I needed some extra people to be watching out for me. Right? And I didn't mind the direction of it, right? I didn't mind go there, go here, do this, do that. That was simple, right?
Yeah.
And I think that people get in their own head. They worry about having the lack of perceived freedoms or whatever it is, because we have a thing in my classroom where the students get the chance to reorganize the letters and make sayings. And they reorganized it this week to read, "Discipline is the highest form of self-love," right? And again, they wrote that. That's coming
Yeah.
from the mouths of high school seniors. But again, when I look at those places being in this disciplined environment, it was actually very easy to be at ease and to be at peace because I wasn't stressed about a bunch of variables that were beyond my control. Right. I used to tell people one of my favorite stress-free days, believe it or not, was like the first day of a Westpac. Right. Like
Yeah.
I once we're done with the scene anchor and we're underway, I can settle in and know that for the next 7, 8 months, this is what I'm doing and this is all I'm doing. And anything outside of this probably is beyond my control. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, and and then when you get back home, you got to get back to real world, right? You got to get back to the real world and figure out life. But at the underway, man, it wasn't too bad, right? If you could just,
It's like a timeout from the real world.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I used to tell the sailors, I tell my chiefs in the mess, but you see that clock on the wall? That ain't nothing to me, bro, but a round thing with numbers on it, baby. They were like, Gary, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm a freaking, this is what I do, man. Like
Right.
this, right? Again, talking to the kids at school, it's like, it's weird having been really good at something, and you're probably working through this in your retirement, having been really good at something in our lives and knowing we'll never do it again. It's
Yeah.
very odd, right?
We shot our shot, you know.
Yeah, it is. You know, I think about it all the time. I won't ever, very rarely, I'll probably never be in chaos again to the point where it's like, but I thrived in those moments, right?
Yeah.
I was trained for those moments.
Absolutely.
I wanted to prevent them, but I didn't mind them because that was what I was built for, right? And then now my chaos is when the bell rings and I got a bunch of high school kids.
Yeah. The halls are crowded, trying to get people to get to
It really is. So when you got to Treasure Island, how was that for you, bro? Here you are, you're a young man, just graduated boot camp. Now you're on the West Coast. You're in freaking San Francisco. How was that?
Frisco was cool. We would go to the city pretty much all the time. There was a place called Columbus Pizza. There's another place called the Condor, which is like the first strip club ever in the United States, but it was now just a bar. And they had what the guy say, Boston iced teas. He made them with some type of blue stuff. And I was 21, so I could drink. And I had another kid that was there with me named Jeff, and I would give him my ID because I had, my driver's license.
Right.
I remember I could get in there and Jeff would get a couple drinks once. And then we got busted one time. The guy was cool about it. He just gave us back my IDs and said, "You guys can't be in here." But Frisco was cool, man. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. There was one of the major like RDC type dude was a guy named DC1 Clemens. He had a twin brother in the Navy, and he was a real good story about, he joined the Navy, he couldn't even read. And then, I saw him years later as a chief, and then his brother made warrant. So just craziness stuff that you remember. My memory is really good about a lot of different things. So I remember a lot of the stuff that I did there, and had fun, the classes and all that stuff, and walking, whatever. There's a circle building. It was really weird. The stairs were on the inside of the building, but it went up like on the inside wall. And then, I think we were on the fourth floor or something like that. But Treasure Island was a lot of fun. And then, they shut it down a few years later. So I don't, you didn't go, did you get to go there or no?
Yeah. I never went to A school at all.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I never went to an actual DC school till I was a chief.
Okay.
I went to repair locker leader and all that other stuff.
Yeah, the basic flight deck. Yeah.
Right, but I never went to an NEC school. Like when I left recruiting duty and I was going to the Ogden, I asked them, could I go to the 4805 school, the CBR&D school, right? And they told me no. They said, no, you can't go. We'll figure it out in the future. And I didn't bite it because at that point, I really thought I was going to cross straight to NC, right? Mm-hmm. At the fleet. I thought, you know what? Coming off recruiting duty, I loved working with people. I might go ahead and go be a career counselor on the ships and change rates, right?
Yeah. Jason Sane. Jason Sane. He was a recruiter with us out of Port Charlotte, and he did that. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah. Did he go from being a CRFer to being an afloat NC?
No. So that turkey he showed up to Fort Myers as a BM3, went to AM aviation maintenance, whatever, AMS, I think it is. and made second class at the A school. So he was going back to the fleet as an AM1 he was when he got done with recruiting. And then he went NC because he had 0 days as an AM, and now he's an AM1 on a carrier. That's what happened with him. So he kind of got moved into a spot he wasn't really familiar with.
And then he became an NC1 on the ship.
Yeah, then he struck NC and made, chief and senior chief at least.
Well,
He's probably now in Fort Myers.
Probably. And what's funny is I was looking at that as being a real option because I wasn't in love with being a damage controlman. I just picked DC because I want out of the pit, right? Like they had a shop, bro. They watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation in the shop. I didn't have no shop. I had my rack and I had the pit, right? There was no in between. But I was a DCPO, and so I would always see them guys and they're screwing around. And my buddy John Floyd was a DC man. Yeah. He was like, bro, you should strike DC. They would love to get you to our division. And eventually I did, but then they kept me in their space because of all my quals and everything else.
Your ERM and all that.
Yeah, and I had not told anybody I was struck in damage control. I did PARs for MM3 and I did PARs for DC3. I kept it quiet till they called me to personnel. We're like, what? You got 2 test orders. What are you doing? And I picked the DC3 test.
Yeah.
Well, when the results came out, now everybody knew I was a DC3. Of course, machinist mates weren't too, and I was on a steamship, right? I'm on the Bellawood at the time.
That's a big deal.
And whatever. It was what it was. Looking back on it, I understand, but I never really being an engineer. I wasn't coming back to the fleet. I wasn't super hyped about being an engineer. Now I fall in love with it during the time on the Ogden, right? And just what's funny about that for me is I come back from recruit duty, and all intentions of probably going over to NC. Well, then my DCA is in DCC, now LDO.
Yeah.
Right? And my DC chief was the guy that applied for LDO and didn't get it.
Okay.
So there's salt in the wounds there, right?
Yeah.
Because the DCA is junior to the chief.
Yeah.
But now he's an LDO.
Right.
Right? And he got picked, another guy did it. And so the chief was just never around, right? He was like in the mess,
just
never around. And he left us all to the DCA to run us, right? Well, the DCA, man, he sold me on going LDO, hook, line, and sinker. He's like, Gary, DC1, you should go, you should consider this. And I was, hey, man, highest pay grade wins, right? I'm looking at it. Yeah. I don't know that much about the Navy. No one ever mentored me about making chief or going LDO. This is the first guy doing that. And so the year I took the test my first time was for LDO purposes.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't even up for chief.
Right.
And I took the test LDO purposes because that DCA helped me. So then my master chief comes up. He's like, hey, Wise, what the hell? Why don't you want to be a chief? And this is like 2006. And I was like, I'm not up for it. I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't in love with the Chiefs mess. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't like, oh my God, I got to be a Navy Chief. I was just a DC1 working my butt off, trying to make it work. And I took the LDO test early, and now I made board for LDO. Right? Yeah. And the master chief was like, do you want to be a chief or not, Wise? And I was like, master chief, I'm not up for it. I don't get the question. Well, here's what I didn't know. I was the Sailor of the Year that year. I was the #1 EP. Okay. There is a time and rate waiver for EP sailors that nobody applied for me for, right?
Yeah.
So I took the test for LDO on my own choice because of that DCA giving me mentorship.
Right.
Right. It wasn't because no chief caught the fact that I was a junior EP and was like, we got to make sure Wise gets this. But they backdated. Somehow they got the waiver approved. Now I'm chief board eligible. I frick around and make chief that year.
Yeah.
And I choose going through initiation. I was like, oh, I love this initiation thing. I bought into all that and the way it goes, right? But I look back on my career and it's like, if that one guy hadn't given me that idea to take the LDO test early, I would have never made chief that year. And there you go. And so, but it was during that ship that I fell in love with engineering, man, and just what they can really be as a team. So for you leaving Treasure Island, so first of all, when you were at Treasure Island, what other things were on that base? Was it just DC? Was it just the A school?
Yeah, it was DC, and then there was no other A schools there. That I think they did the World Fair in 2000, and then they shut it down. But obviously, it's a key point location. So there used to be ships and all that stuff there, but not when I got there. I think Almeida or Alma, what is it called? Almeida?
Alameda, yeah.
Alameda's up there. And they had, I think, reserve, ARSs or something like that, the USNS ships. But
Right.
there wasn't nothing else going on. A lot of the buildings were shut down because they were all full of asbestos. As soon as you walked into the class, it said, this building is built with asbestos, blah, blah, blah. We're not responsible. Like, well,
how was the energy of the schoolhouse, right? Because that generation of DC men was probably the generation that reinstated the rate, right?
Yes.
Because they got rid of the damage control rate, then they brought it back. And so there was like a blitzkrieg of people jumping into the community because they were going to make rank, right? It was a hot running rate. But were they like super intense about being damage controlmen? How was that for you?
So at the A school, there was a lot of young senior chiefs. We're talking 11-year senior chiefs, stuff like that, because exactly what you said, they took that DC test, made chief, and then doing a good job, make senior chief right away. So there was a lot of young guys there. And I think that they had the energy to push you, to get in there and get, we did all the structural firefighting and stuff like that. And it's probably a little bit watered down now from what it used to be. But it was for real. Guys were down there passing out, stuff like that. Guys built like me and you, we don't pass out. Usually it's the real skinny people that don't carry no water that pass out. So we don't normally do that. But yeah, it was intense. I was always getting in trouble with my mouth as usual. But I think that they had two fleet returnees. One was an RM3 and the other guy was just a fireman and he was striking DC. I remember that. So that was kind of cool because you didn't, they're from the fleet. You're excited to talk to some fleet people because you ain't never been there. You ain't never seen nothing. His last name was Burton. He was a good dude.
That's what I was curious about, man, because, in the damage control community, you kind of meet people that are either super hyped up about about damage control or the ones that are just kind of like, oh my God, it's such a hard thing. And there's really no in between, right?
Yeah.
And I was just curious because I never got that experience to go into that school, but I worked at Fairview. I worked at SWAS eventually my career in Case and Norfolk. And I really remember trying to get, because here's the deal. If you don't have energy for it as a senior enlisted, you're going to struggle, right? You got to get everybody excited about damage control.
Right.
But I was wondering how it was in the schoolhouse. What was your first ship you went to after school?
So I went to Harry W. Hill out of San Diego. It was already on deployment. So I met it in Bahrain. And I remember sitting down. There was brown eggs and room temperature milk at the old Bahrain base, and I forget what they called it at that time, but it was you basically ate outside underneath the tent, and I was miserable, man. They had lost my bag, so I had no uniform, so I was walking around in sweatpants for my first couple days on the ship. But they took care of me, honestly. There was an HT3 that checked in with me, and they sent him to another berthing. He's a big dude, and they're like, we're going to put you with us for now because we don't want you, getting picked on somewhere else in another berthing. It's like, ain't no one going to pick on Will. Will's like 6'4", 250, and even return, HT3 already. So, and it worked out. I think Will was a little mad about it, but I think at the end, me and him were pretty tight. He goes, it was probably the right thing to do. But yeah, so I met the ship on deployment. They had been at sea for like 30 days. I think the last place they had been was Thailand, and no bullshit, they all went out and got drunk. And then they came back, and it's my first night on the ship, and I'm in my rack, and I hear them all like, making noise and getting crazy. And there was a DC-1 on there. He used to be a data processor, so dude has no idea what DC is. He probably did the switch over to try to make chief, and it was not going to work for him. And somehow he fell out of his rack and broke his thumb. So I'm in my rack just sleep, trying to sleep, and I'm a light sleeper as it is. It's going nuts, and I hear him going, "Oh, my aching thumb! Oh, my aching thumb!" And I'm just like, this dude's got to shut up, man. He ain't gonna shut up because he's drunk. All the people tended to him are drunk, and they went and got the HMC. Well, the HMC came down there and he said something because he was really drunk, and that HT3 jumped out of the rack ready to fight him. And I was like, holy moly, man. This is my first night on this ship. There's about to be a fist fight in our division's little cubby. And, man, I said, I don't know if I made the right choice here, man. This might not be such a good plan. But anyway, Amos ended up finished deployment with us. The HT, I think he went to DRB, got yelled at and told, stop being a jerk or whatever. But that was my first night on a ship, man. So, because I didn't go out, I just went to the ship to get all like settled in and get my rack ready because I didn't know what to expect. So it was just Bahrain anyway. So,
what kind of was it? A DD?
Yeah, DD 986. So destroyer, 560 feet, whatever. Our berthing was way back aft, and our shop was right there as well. So we were across from the EM shop in the back half of the ship. So.
On a ship like that in that year, was there a DC chief on that ship?
When I first got there was a guy named Gordon Gist. He was a senior chief at the time, and he was old school, yell at you, go nuts type of dude, throw shit. And he was an intimidating dude. He'd get, rowdy and mad real quick about stuff. But the guy who ran the shop was actually a DC-2. And we had 3 first classes, but he ran the shop, and his name was Dan Goldsmith. Super smart dude, 95 ASVAB, hated every minute of the Navy, but worked harder than anybody, and he was just a beast. So that's who I kind of learned from. He was the one teaching NDOC, and then 6 months later I'm teaching NDOC. That's how fast it went for me. So, but it was a good ship. I made DC-2 on there. Went to Mass twice on that ship. Once for wearing earrings in Bahrain, and then once for the Chang wouldn't let me go home to take the fire department test. I wanted to take the fire department test down in Naples. And he's like, we need you here. I was like, we're in port. The chief said yes. The LPO said yes. The DIVO said yes. And you said no. I said, I don't even work for you. The dude says, you do work for me. And I said, well, I quit. And he said, his last name was Long. He retired as a captain. He said, get the fuck out of my stateroom and shut my effing door. Sorry about the curse. And I said, you shut your own effing door. And I just walked out. I looked at Mass. That was the first day of Christmas break. Oh. So they teed me up right away. They're like, you're going to Mass today. So then the MAC came down. He already knew my mouth, and I already had the earrings incident. I went to XOI the first time they let me go on the earrings. But I was still a believer. You could wear earrings. So I ended up going to XOI and then the Mass. But anyway, so the MAC comes down first day of Christmas break, and he goes, I was still hot. He goes, you got your blues on board? I said, yeah, I brought them today, Chief, hoping I'd go to Mast. He's just looking at me like, okay, all right, bro, we got your card. So I go up there to Mast in my dungarees, the old school dungarees with the goofy pockets and all that stuff, chambray shirt. And it was in the library, and I said, I need a closed Mast, which I never did before. It probably saved me. And I told the captain, I just don't understand why everything I do for the ship, but I can't get the opportunity to go try to be a firefighter. I was scene leader, repair 5, scene leader, flight deck, scene leader, flying squad, main demonstrator, Halon, all that stuff, 2-year guy, but just doing everything. And the captain gave me 30 days restriction and half times 2. I had no money at the time either, man. I was gambling down in Tijuana all the time, going to bet on sports, being a total crazy dude. Been to Tijuana probably 500 times. But anyway, so I go to Mass, and I'm on the ship for both Christmas breaks. And that wasn't a big deal to me anyway. I have not like I had kids. I wasn't married or nothing, still young. But like on the 23rd day, I was on the ship, and I get called to the captain's stateroom at like 1400 on a Friday. And 2 days before that, the DC-1 got caught sleeping on sound security. And he was really not good at what he did, didn't really care. Let's say that. And I was like, I think the captain's going to ask me if this dude's worth it. Can we save this guy or should we save this guy? And I was really like, I don't even know what to say that's going to be positive about him. He was a DC-2 actually still at the time. I apologize. 15-year DC-2. I'm a 2-year DC-2. Right. And he made DC-1 the test before me. I'm so mad because, he's a 16-year DC-1 and I'm a 5-year DC-1, later on. But anyway, I'm so mad. But anyway, I go in there and the captain said, DC-2, Chang said you've been doing work, getting it done, working hard still, nothing has stopped. Or preventing you from, when you got in trouble. He goes, so you're off restriction as of right now, and you'll be able to go home and take the fire department test, which turned out to be nothing anyway, because I went down there, passed their physical, passed the written test, and they're like, well, none of your quals count, so you're kind of, at Front Street, step 1. And I was like, man, so I better just go back to the Navy. So I did.
You know, all the guys in the DC community are always talking about getting out and becoming firefighters in the civilian world,
Yeah.
and yeah, we don't really know what we're talking about, you
No.
know, and that's an important piece of information for the world. I mean, yeah, 100%. I've had that same conversation countless times with people. So I did my research, and I was like, look, brother, like ultimately, this is going to do nothing but give you some life experience. You're gonna still go to the fire college, still got to go through the firefighter one,
Yep.
firefighter, get all that stuff done. And
Yeah.
it's like your earlier point. It's not like the Air Force that
Yeah.
gives you a lot of those certifications along the way. And it's because shipboard firefighting is so different than structural firefighting, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I would never expect any of them to come do what we do on ships.
They wouldn't.
Right?
They'd get lost.
Yeah. So really, the best thing to tell sailors, if you want to go be a paid firefighter, is go to MSC
Yep.
and go work for them and be a shipboard engineer, and
Yeah.
and you can make good money. You know,
Yeah.
I've had people leave from my damage control training team, have me write letters of recommendation for them, and they got hired on as damage control trainers on MSC ships, making real good money, bro, just
Yeah.
for DSET experience.
Yeah. QED,
Not
they
even
call
as,
it
that's
Qualified
it.
Engineering Department, QED, and
That's
then you're
it.
on that fire party. And I think, you know, one of the big things that's gapped is they don't have any of that stuff on these cruise lines. I go on a cruise this week with some
Okay.
family, but that's a total mess. They got just a bunch of cats that have probably ran 2 drills in their whole life. Once in a while, you would see them at the schoolhouse, I'm sure, but you'd probably see MSC guys, not cruise line guys. But
Yeah.
it's a mess, man. And those ships catch fire; they just burn until they hit the water line, and that's a little bit scary.
It is
But you're
scary.
right. Civilian firefighters really are lost on the ship because they just never done it before. It's so enclosed.
It
It's a
is.
different animal.
Brother, I used to get into these conversations, really these debates with people that would do this. And you know that import firefighting doctrine we got now?
Yeah,
With us
80
and
10,
dead fire
80
down
10
to
drill.
freaking here. I would lose my ever-loving mind, bro, because I'm just like, especially when I was in Japan and they were all Japanese firefighters, right? And I'm on a nuclear ship and the Japanese can only go certain places.
Yeah,
And I'm like, none of this makes sense, bro.
right.
Like, this is, you're not gonna hump that hose. I'm sorry, that's not gonna work. My crew must defeat the fire. It's just
Mhm.
how it's gotta be. And if anything, give me more sailors, possibly. Like when we saw, what was that ship that burnt to down? Was that the BHR that
Yeah,
caught on
Bonhomme.
fire? Like that's a, bro. How many years have we been waiting for that to happen?
On a
Right?
Sunday, the base is empty. You only got duty section on base. You only got that's a. I mean, it was just a really bad timing thing.
In a yard period or in an
Yeah,
availability. And look, I never slept well in the availabilities, right? I
yeah,
was, because I knew fireman was gapped. I knew it was just a waiting problem.
yeah.
And it was super sad to see it happen, but no, I was not surprised because I know how hard it is. And then of course it's arson, right? Freaking arson, bro. Like,
Yeah.
how are you gonna fight that, dog? Like, fire prevention is not for arson. Fire prevention is for, like, you know, a Charlie fire that lights something else on fire. It's
Right.
not going to stop some jerk that goes and freaking sparks it up, bro. Like,
Yeah, it accelerates it. I
yeah, no, I gave grace to that crew as soon as I heard that whole arson thing because I was like, you know what? That's just an unfair thing. And unfortunately, our ships are tinder boxes in a lot of different ways. It's the goal is to prevent it from ever happening, right? And fortunately, we're pretty good at that, right?
yes.
I mean, we really are. So, okay, you get through with your first ship. When you look back on your first ship before we go to your next part of your career, any significant leadership takeaways from you in your first ship? Because those are usually pretty pivotal.
So what was really an interesting moment for me, I told you I taught NDOC for DC. I was the only guy. I'm an E4 and E5 doing that. There was plenty of other people that had that opportunity. So even though I did run my mouth and get in trouble, people still knew I knew the job, and I knew I trained every person that stepped on that ship. And one time I was doing ESWAS came out back then, and if you look in the book, nobody has it. I'm the only guy in our division that ended up getting it, and the reason I ended up getting it was I was downstairs on Deco, and a chief came in to get some DC signatures. PNC just got there, and I'm giving him, going through all the stuff. He's like, DC2, you really noticed pretty well. How come you don't have your ESWAS? I was just like, I don't know. He goes, well, something you probably might want to do. That's what he kind of like closed it off with that. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. And that was a PNC. His last name was Slemons. I don't remember his first name, obviously. But that dude, he turned the light on for me for that one, which was pretty cool because I had, if you look at that yearbook, I have that yearbook right over there. I'm the only clown in our division with an East Wasp pin, and there's 4 first classes sitting there slick with nothing. And unfortunately, all those guys ended up retiring as first classes. They never got over the hump, but they ended up getting their East Wasp pins, but they really took their time about it, And that chief just kind of made me like challenge accepted, like I said, and I said, all right, we'll make this happen. And I went to the board with a ET2, and back then the first classes did the board, right? And then you did the Chiefs board, and the Chiefs board was, a lot of them didn't have it. I ended up being on the Chiefs board as a DC2 because a lot of them didn't even have it, and there was no DCC on the ship, and I taught the class. So, anyway, and then you walked around with the captain. So you did a walk around with the captain, and you point at certain things, and you have to know what it was and all that. And obviously, it's become way more, I think, harder to get your East Wasp pin now, just based on more knowledge based than kind of just talking your way through it. So kids have to memorize a lot more stuff. Yeah. But that was it. That chief kind of pointed out to me like, hey man, maybe you want to do that. And that was a good point. So,
very cool. Very
Chief
cool.
Payton.
So you're getting ready to leave that ship. Did you know, like, were you planning on staying in the Navy? So we did the firefighting thing, recognized that wasn't going to go as flawlessly as you thought it was going to go. So did you decide, hey, I'm just going to re-enlist and see what the Navy has in store for me, or how'd that work?
So I extended for the cruise. I'm still playing. I'm not doing this game. I'm just going to do a little, whatever it was, 8-month extension or some nonsense when you could do that. And then I had to re-enlist for orders. And the orders they were offering me was Southwest Regional Maintenance Center because I went to Mass twice. And I'm like, I ain't taking them orders, bro. I ain't doing that. So put me on a ship. So I went back-to-back ships. I did 4.5 years on that ship at DCOM. They sent me to a frigate, Clackering. They said it was in Mayport. It was in Portsmouth. Not that big of a mistake. Anyway, I was so happy to get to Mayport. I'm driving my happy butt over to Virginia, P-Town. And so I ended up on that ship. And what was really eye-opening for me there, just arriving, was I was the man on that last ship. Even though, like I said, I went to Mass a couple times. I'm teaching NDOC. I'm doing everything. They stuck me in Repair 3 as like I don't even know if I was a scene leader or the team leader. And I was like, I was sleeping during drills because we do nothing in Repair 3. It was Repair 5 and then we get relieved by Repair 2. So I was like, really like, man, this is weird, man. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And we deployed about 6 months into that. But right before we deployed, the guy that was running the show was a guy named Tony Folk. He was an SK2, and he was scene leader on everything. And he had a mission underway to take care of something. I think his wife was having an operation. She wasn't going to be able to get around, so he's going to take care of her. And they put me as scene leader for the drills when we got underway. And, of course, I smoked it. And then, Tony came back, and he was in Repair 3 sleeping after that. So and he ended up retiring as an MACS. And believe it or not, he jumped on that MA bandwagon when he couldn't. He was always like that anyway, so it was a good fit for him. But I did time on that ship, and I enjoyed the frigate, man. The frigate was cool too. It was just like the a little bit smaller version of the DD. Our division was probably 10, 12 kids. Pretty much all of those guys got out on that ship. They were all first termers.
Was it still OBAs?
Yeah. Still OBAs, and then we got SCBAs. We were a pilot ship or something. After that first deployment, we went to SCBAs. So we got them, and that was good.
That was for me. That was another challenge of my career. Right, I was OBAs all the way till I got to my aircraft carrier. So I went from never having SCBAs to having thousands of SCBAs.
And a lot of PMS and a lot of work. Yeah.
Woo! Thank God I did a tour at ATG San Diego first, and I got the chance to watch people do a lot of SCBA checks. Yeah. And I was able to fake it till I made it. And then when I got to the ship, I was able to learn from my sailors and figure it out. But I didn't grow up doing PMS on high pressure filter assemblies and all. I mean, yes, I had SAR SCBAs, right? But I did not have the installed high pressure compressors. And so that was a huge change. And then from the firefighting perspective, like OBA sucked. Like
Yeah.
they were horrible, right? I,
You knock the air out of them suckers, man, you're out.
that was horrible. And so fighting fires and casualties I was a lot more confident in SCBAs, right? And
Yeah.
I thank God that I never really had anything too catastrophic in an OBA because that wouldn't have been a good plan.
Yeah.
Whereas I mean, sure it could work, but it's not nearly as effective as the SCBAs,
No,
right?
it's like a Porsche racing a station wagon.
Brother, it was something, right? It
Yeah.
was something. So you're on the Clack Ring. How was it living in Portsmouth, vice living in San Diego, right?
So San Diego, I always lived on the ship all the way up until about the end of my 40, like maybe at my 4-year mark on the ship, I finally moved off. But I was still, like I told you, man, I was going down to Tijuana betting on sports all the time. So there were sometimes I had like $14 in between my credit card payments and all that nonsense. So I was running buck wild. But going to Portsmouth, that's where the ship was. But I definitely didn't live in Portsmouth. I lived over by Virginia Beach. I had brought my car out there. I, drove it from San Diego, and I lived with an OS2 Wiser. And then, but when we came back, I moved straight into the hood. We lived right there in P-Town, about 1.5 miles from the base, and we were straight in the hood. And there was a dude there named Mr. Jones. He owned 2 houses, and we rented the house for him for $600 a month. And he said for $615 a month, I'll cut the grass, and if there's snow, I'll shovel the grass. I mean, I'll shovel the snow and I'll cut the grass. And the dude was probably 75 years old, and he was a very entertaining dude to talk to. And he said, in the $15 goes to me. Mrs. Jones gets the 600, but we don't talk about the 15. So he's got a little side hustle to get his $15 a month, which was so funny, man, because you're a kid like, yeah, whatever, dude, we got you.
Yeah.
And he would come over. I put a pool table in that house. And it was a big house. It was a cool house, like a cool party house, actually, for us. And I was only there for 2.5 years, but it was a good time. It was back-to-back shifts, so it was easy because I knew everything, and I was already didn't lose my touch or whatever you want to say. Didn't go to shore duty and kind of slip up a little bit or whatever. And on that first deployment, I made first class. I had taken the test already, and I was walking back from Liberty, coming on the ship in Bahrain. And the guy goes, "Hey, you made first class." And I said, "I knew that, bro. I was just waiting on those results." I act cocky, kept walking like a jerk. But
hey, that's DC, man, bro. We can be. You got to look to be. When it comes to DC, man, you either have swagger or you don't.
Yeah,
they're very little, especially at the khaki range. Mm-hmm. You're either very, very good at what you do or you're not, and there's just not a lot of in between, right? And I think it's because of the amount of pressure we get put under junior, right? Because as DC, I mean, just like you, I was at DC. I wasn't in R Division long, but I was teaching NDOC very quickly because they can put me in front of. That's how I got Navy recruiter. I was teaching NDOC, and they came and watched me teach, and they said, "Hey, DC3, you want to go be a Navy recruiter?" And I was like, "Hell no, I'm getting out of the Navy, bro." And they were like, "Well, think about it," and I thought about it and said, "Okay, I'll go be a recruiter."
Yeah,
but. And so I think for DC, a lot of us get that early experience, and then duty section training, right? Yeah. Doing training with just all kinds of different places and running scenes, running teams. And then people that struggle with those things, especially when they get to chief, they're going to really struggle because now you have no choice but be in front of everybody.
Right. You haven't been doing it.
Yeah, especially if you got to get into a damage control training team brief, or you got to fix the DCPO program that's broke. Yeah. Or you got to inspire a whole crew of freaking khakis to care about the ship's readiness, right?
Yeah, to stay late and care.
You got to exactly, and you got to get your people hyped to want to win, even though they're outmanned and outgunned, right? Because there's never enough. I mean, I personally believe that the damage control rate should be multiplied by about 3. My personal opinion. I just don't think there's enough sailors to do the maintenance that is on the ship for them to do, and there's really no other way to get around it. And that's not even talking about the portable maintenance or the DCPO maintenance. I'm just looking at just the fixed systems, just the valve maintenance, like by the book.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if we're going to throw the damn book out, I can do that too. I can have that conversation all day.
Yeah.
But again, I would advocate for that when I was at DK's as a DC Master Chief. I would just be like, look, the manning is not appropriate for what we expect them to do. And the engineers, I love the snipes, but they don't have to worry about the whole ship. They focus on their spacings.
Yeah.
But it's a different thought process. So after Clackering, did you go recruiting then?
So this is what happened. So I made first class there, like I just told you. And I said, I want to go recruiting. And they said, they're not taking first classes. I said, well, I'm not the average dude, bro. I need to be, someone's got to come tell me no or something. So they made me go, interview with a NCC. And he signed me off. He goes, yeah, you'll be fine. So now I'm pumped up, but now they're offering like Minnesota. And I went back to the XO and I said, hey, sir. And he was decade leader. So he already likes me. And I said, sir, I'm staying on the ship until they offer me Miami. He's like, what? I said, I'm just staying on this ship until they offer me Miami. He goes, all right, I'll call the detailer. And this was 99, 2000 probably. So he just called the detailer and said, hey, man, when you got a spot in Miami, my guy's ready to go. But until then, he's on the ship. So the XO was cool with it. He's like, I got my dude for deployment and everything. Yeah. And I ended up flying out of I missed Brazil, man. I was supposed to go to Brazil, but they said you needed a visa to fly out. And what today is, okay, I would have had to pay $40. I would have went to Brazil for $40. Anyway, I had to fly out of Uruguay and got back to Florida. They flew me into Miami and then went across over to where my grandma lived in Fort Myers, Lehigh, and got my car and drove it up to school, Pensacola. Yeah. So, yeah, that's when I started my recruiting school, right from the middle of deployment, and went up there and did that. So,
how long were you a recruiter before you became the rank or the recruiter in charge?
8 months. I was at Fort Myers. Fort Myers had just missed goal by 1, so they had a kind of a shaky year with 4 recruiters in there, maybe 5 recruiters, and their goal was low. It was like 34, and they got 33. But what had happened is I got there in January, and I was zone recruiter of the year, even though it only goes to September. So I only had 9 months, and me, I'm talking shit. I said, look, bro, you guys had 12 months, and I came in here with 9 months and smoked you. Can you imagine what's going to happen next year when I got 12 months? Right. I went back to back zone recruiter of the year. And then, so at the right after September, right after the year's up, they sent me over to Cape Coral, which just got destroyed. They missed goal. They went like 8 for 17 with 2 recruiters. And I'm like, you guys put 8 people in the Navy, 2 dudes? What's going on over here? Anyway, but now that's 2001. So I get there in September. You know what happened September 11th. And I didn't even know the TV work. We had like a little TV in the office. I guess they showed videos on, but I just got there, so I really didn't know. And of course, my recruiter was out because he had some dental work, so he ain't even at work. Now he's trying to tell me on the phone, that 9/11's going on. Turn on the TV, and I was like, the TV works. And I didn't even know what was going on, so I turned it on. They sent us home. I don't know if you were there yet, but they made us take all the cars, put them into the middle of the parking lot, and just go home. Yep. So that was my experience in Cape Coral, and then we did good in Cape Coral. We killed it. I went to mass there as a first class. Making diplomas, putting everybody in the Navy I could. And the thing was, I never put a guy in the Navy or a girl in the Navy to make gold. So when I'm sitting there at the DRB as a first class, and NCC Cromer was like, okay, so you're 1 for 3 in Fort Myers. And I was like, actually, Chief, I'm in Cape Coral now. He's like, okay, so you're 4 for 2. 4 for 2? What are you doing putting in a person? I've never seen someone put in a person that they didn't need for gold. I said, I didn't put them in because I need gold. I put them in because they need to be in the Navy. So anyway, I go to mass for that nonsense. Right. And I'm a first class, getting ready to take the Chiefs. I already took the Chiefs test, I think. They make me go sign an eval July 3rd. Well, July 4th is July 4th. There ain't no mail. And the deadline for packages was July 5th. So NRD Miami mails that sucker in, and it got denied and sent back to him with my mask paperwork. So I got 3 masks, right? 3 masks, 3rd class, 2nd class, 1st class, and now I'm up for chief. And they can't do nothing about it because there ain't no email, there ain't no, it wasn't like it is now. Right. And I get selected. and I get a call from Todd Chait. He was at NCC. He was my zone suit. And he says, the captain's about to call you. And he goes, there's only be two things. Either you're in trouble again or you made chief. And you'll be in trouble for that too. So I make chief on the way home from MEPS, of course, because I'm putting somebody in the war. And they said, we don't know how we're going to handle it, but we'll let you know. So you might or might not know, I didn't go through initiation until April. They made me wait till I got paid. So I went from initiation like April 1st to May 16th. And it was, obviously it was watered down a little bit, but they were still allowed to use food at that time. But I actually did the thing at Port Charlotte's Eagles. I did the night of with Ken Jaco, if you remember NCC Jaco. But some of those guys were there. But anyway, I had to do a lot of driving around, man. And they would make me drive like to Miami to go talk to a chief and, a guy I never saw before and try to figure out some stuff, just get yelled at, told to go to, Port Charlotte now. And it was kind of weird. The night of was pretty good. Everybody came in from Puerto Rico, all that stuff, just for my event, which was pretty weird. So I went through all that stuff and did the night of, did the standard stuff. And then put it on and then went right to Jamaica because I was going to Jamaica for a couple of weeks. And that's another story, but it was a good one. So I'm a chief in Cape Coral, make goal. And then the guy who's the zone 2 or is actually an NC1 over in Fort Myers is thinking about getting out of the Navy. And I had just went to Mass as a chief. So now I got 4 Mass. And I went to Mass I got a kid that was working at Nextel and he wanted the weekend off. So I wrote on Navy letterhead, hey, he's working for me this weekend. Can you give him a pass? Well, someone at Nextel used to be in the Navy as a security officer and send that shit down to NRD Miami. I went to Mass as a chief for a letter. And of course, half times 2, can't put me on restriction. But that was my 4th Mass. That put me in a real good timeout to make senior chief. Yeah. But anyway, I go over to Fort Myers, and no BS, man. They were down. I think they were like 18 for 34 when I walked in there. And that was 6 months into the year, so it was already March. And they were working Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. And the guy that was getting out was just frustrated. He's like trying to get out to go be a real estate agent. And real estate was kind of hot, but about to get real bad anyway. So he got lucky. He stayed in and made NCCS and retired. He actually works at Jones. But I went over there and I said, look, we're working Monday through Thursday. And we'll work till whenever the parents want to do those appointments. But we do not work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you set an appointment on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I will not be there to help you close it. So you better figure out how to close. And one of the recruiters, he goes, well, that's not going to work. And I said to him, well, how many people you put in the Navy so far this year? And he gave me the 4. 6 months in, he gives me the 4. I said, 4? So nothing works for you. So why don't you just shut up and listen? That's what I said. Not as nicely, but that's what I said. Yeah. And we went on to roll. We wrote 58 contracts in 6 months after they had wrote 18 in 6 months. And we killed goal. We killed everything, whatever. And all legit, man. Nobody got no trouble. I stopped making diplomas. I graduated from that. And we didn't work no, I said, you could work waivers on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I got rid of people chasing waivers, because, they knew those are days off. So I'm like, we don't work waivers. You make goal, then you can work a waiver, but not until we get all that other stuff done. I know there's good people out there that have waivers, but right now we're not working that. And then I left, I went to, I left that October. I did 4 years out there, 2 maps, 1 promotion. I lost a couple of awards. I lost a comm and an AM for going to Mass, but I still got a comm and an AM on recruiting. So I did fine. But
so you did 4 years at NRD Miami.
Yeah.
And 2.
I made gold every year.
Bro, that's why I'm just sitting there thinking, like, they kept you on the bag. Like, they didn't send you back to the fleet. They didn't say, hey, Chief, you're done. That, to me, is incredible, right? Especially at the khaki level, because typically we get in trouble as khakis, and it's like, you're dead to me, bro. You got to go. But it also shows you're just a good recruiter and how much of an effective skill that is for them. What did you find was your common denominator in all those different locations that you were able to invigorate those teams?
So, you know, I did a couple different. One time I wrote a little thing about the most important thing in recruiting is following up. And the reason for that is this. If I talk to you and I'm like, hey, Gary, man, what are you doing after high school? And you say, well, you know, I'm probably going to go work at my dad's trucking business. You know, I'm going to drive trucks. Well, you got to follow up with that kid because maybe that's his plan. Maybe it isn't. But in, 3 or 4 months, I still want to know where his plan's at. And that was really the key was tell him, hey, man, you called that kid out 4 months ago. Let's find out if he is going to Florida State to go play baseball like it says in our tools.
Right.
Or stuff like that. But it was really about just following up and showing a kid like, hey, man, we still got good jobs for you if you're interested. And that was really it. Persistence, working hard, giving them the time off, telling them, Monday through Thursday is what we work. And then you got Friday, Saturday, Sunday without telling the Zone 2. Zone 2 be calling me, ask me where everybody is. I said, look, man, we're at goal. You need to be calling Port Charlotte, maybe Naples, but don't be calling Fort Myers because we're at goal. You called the wrong, you called the wrong house, that was kind of it. I mean, reward, work hard and reward. I had recruiters working at 8, 9 o'clock, going to do home interviews because we couldn't do them on the weekends. Finally, that third and a half year, or whatever you want to call it, I finally figured out, man, Saturday and Sunday are also my days off. I don't want to be going out to your house on my day off and sitting there and talking to you about your kid when I could have got it done on Monday through Thursday, and I would just go to what day works best for you during the week so we can make this happen. Right. So just little things you pick up, while you're out there. And that was probably my best tour, even with 2 masts. I was at my hometown, all my friends, Macon Chief. I got distinguished graduate out of school there, out of recruiting, which you get a cup. It's not like it's anything special, but it's a regular distinguished graduate, Master Chief Baccalaureate Award. Yeah. So, but it was based on production. So I'm never going to get it for academics. I don't care enough to study, but I can get it on production. So
I'd tell you, I loved recruiting duty. I really did. It changed my life in so many different ways. They used to have these tapes and the cassette tapes in the G-Jet, like the Zig Ziglar and like Tony Robbins Power Talk. Bro, I had never heard stuff like that before, but I would get so hyped up on that stuff that I would be like just talking to people about life and then I would get in the car with the AT1. He'd be like, I didn't know the Navy had all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know either. I'm bullshitting, bro. Like, but it's so good, don't it? Oh. And no, I loved it, man. And then when I got back to the fleet, it was game over, right? Because my communication skills were through the roof. I'd learned because I really took that PSS stuff in and I made it my own, right? To this day, opening, probing, supporting, and closing, baby. Yeah. All day long, I'm still using those skills because they really are very effective tools and using as you're navigating a conversation, right? And trying to get somewhere with somebody. So when you're leaving recruiting, where do you go to next?
Halliburton. So Halliburton was on deployment. Rick O'Raw was the senior chief on there in engineering. You probably know him, retired Fleet Forces. Yep. Would have been really, really, really competitive for Mick Pond if he had got to stay, but his wife said, "You're Geo Batchin if you go to DC." So he made the call and got out actually.
And I'm like working at Fleet and Family now or something like that, I think, right?
What is that?
I think he works like Fleet and Family or something like that.
Yeah, he's a director. Yeah, he got the main job. I talk to him all the time.
Nice.
But anyway, he's trying to pull me so I can't go to 4811 and then 4805 because just like you, I never been in those schools, but I've been to A school. But they sent me to him backwards. So I did 4811 first, then I did 4805. But I got both of those. And the guy I went with, man, we were driving back, and as soon as we got back Monday, he was starting in-serve. Or ultra, whatever. One of them you get underway for. I think it was in-serve. Anyway, so I could call him in the morning to leave him a message because he's supposed to be gone. This is coming back from school and first day on the ship. And I'm like, hey, and he answers the phone. I go, hey man, I thought you guys had already be underway. He goes, oh no, I woke up this morning in the shower and I fainted, so I just didn't go to work. He's a DCC, bro.
Yeah.
They were counting on that dude, to come out there and make it happen for him, which he wasn't going to do anyway. So he just decided to pass out before he even got there to get yelled at. Anyway, they pulled back in, man. They just told me, "You're good. Stay on the pier, bro. We'll get you your stuff and you're done." So, man, it was just weird for me because I was like, how do you quit day one? And I couldn't understand that, man. To me, that's not the way you do business.
So you went to school with this DC chief, 4811, 4805.
Yeah.
And he was going to, what ship was he going to?
I think it was 64. So it was a DDG. I think 64.
Okay.
Not 100%, but it was DDG.
He tapped out before he even got there and said,
Dude didn't even go, bro. Dude was gone before he even got there. He said he passed out in the shower, which I wouldn't admit either. I would never say I passed out in the shower, especially in DC. I just would have said I decided not to go to work today. I would have made it like I was tough, but he said he passed out in the shower, man. Crazy. So anyway, that kind of derailed his upward mobility. But I got there, and like I told you, Rick was there, and engineering was strong, man. Engineering was good. That was a good place for me to show up. The guy I relieved, I don't even remember who that was, to be honest with you. And that's not saying he was good or bad. I just don't remember if he was even there yet. I think he might have left. They had a good DC-1. He ended up making chief. But he was running the shop when I got there. So obviously I was there to help him out and get us going in a good direction. We got the SCBAs on that ship like mid-tour. And we'll get into that too. There's a good story behind that too. But yeah, Halliburton, man, right out of Mayport. So that's my third ship. I'd already been on 5 deployments. So, I'm already pretty seasoned at that point on shipboard life and all that stuff. So there's nothing new other than I'm living in the Chiefs mess now.
How was that being a part of the Chiefs mess on the ship?
I thought like that was pretty cool. There were some salty old Chiefs in that mess, senior Chiefs, because Rick was young. Rick was only a year ahead of me, maybe. So I'm in 2005, I'm at 14, Rick's at 15. But there was guys 22, 23, 24 at that time. Eights had to get out at 24. So there was senior Chiefs on there and a couple other guys. And then there was some just, other new guys coming in too as soon as we got there. But because for some reason, I always ended up getting the ships in, like July, or whatever, transferring in July. So it was right before the season started. But I don't even remember who the first CMC was. The second one was Jerry Pierce, though, and Jerry Pierce was a real good CMC. That was a good dude. So he was the second CMC. I just forget who the first one was. Doesn't mean he was a bad dude or not. I just don't remember.
Yeah.
But Jerry was good. But yeah, we did. I mean, Rick was there for maybe the first year. Then we got Bucky Wallison, who was a beast. Then we got a senior chief electrician. So I think I was still a junior chief, and I was still in timeout for my mass anyway. I wasn't going to make senior chief there.
Right.
But no, it was a good. It was my first or my second frigate. So, but first ship as a chief, but second frigates. I knew the ship too. I mean, there was no nothing new there that I didn't have. I got my EL letter there.
How was the op tempo coming back to the fleet after 9/11?
So they had just got back from. That was the first time I ever got to a ship that didn't get underway. Pretty much right when I got there.
Okay.
So they got back and we went into a yard availability and all that stuff, and we were getting the SCBA upgrades and some other stuff. So it was taking a minute, and I still did 2 deployments on there in 36 months. So however it worked out, that's how it worked out. And we still had, the underways, the trainings, things and stuff like that. But I did 2 deployments there. The base was cool. I'd never been a Mayport guy, so being stationed in Mayport back in Florida, staying in Florida was good for me.
For those deployments you did on that ship, did you go to the Persian Gulf, or did you stay just like doing like 4th Fleet stuff?
So the first one was we went through 5th Fleet and then into 6th Fleet, and then on the second one, actually we went down south, and we were going to do a mid-voyage deployment repair MDVR, and of course I have duty, and a turbo freezes in aux 2 on one of the generators, there's a GS on top watch, and he didn't secure it. So it's like midnight. Everybody else is out drunk because we're in what do you call it, Bogota, Colombia. But you had midnight liberty, so everybody comes back drunk. But anyway, the thing freezes and catches fire. So all I hear is Class Bravo fire, wardroom pantry. So I ran up there, and I'm like, I know it ain't a Bravo fire in the wardroom pantry. And so I had ran up there in my, my boxers and T-shirt to see what was going on first. And there's nothing there but smoke. So I said, all right, that ain't right. So I went down and went into CCS, and I'm talking to the GSE, and he's like, yeah, you know what happens. But I wasn't qualified EOD yet, but there's a GSE 1 who was. So I said, all right, you stay in here. I'll go deal with this fire. Even though I'm the khaki and I'm supposed to be the EDO. But I mean, let's be real. He's a GSE 1. I'm a DCC. Where's the common sense? So I go down there, and I hit Halon, but whatever had happened, the heat had snapped the high pressure pipe. So it was getting air the whole time. So Halon was not effective.
Right.
And the GSE is like, Jody, hit Halon again. I said, no, it ain't gonna work, bro. It didn't work the first time. I'm going in. So I put on an SCBA and went down there and put that fire out. But that was the only fire I ever had to actually engage on a ship that was for real. I tried to put it out with CO2 because it was electrical components, and it just wouldn't. It kept reflashing from that air. And then I had to just go, I said conventional, because 555 tells you go salt water on. And I put that fire out by myself. And I had the radio, had the Nifty. Nifty was at 968. So it was real deal.
Looking like the damage control Rambo down there.
Yeah. I had all three things, and the DC men are up on the mess decks waiting on me. I went up there and I went back to the fantail, and I definitely did not get along with that Chang, and he was a goober, and I went back there, and like Jerry Pierce was there, and Jerry's like, good job, Jody, you put it out. There was people crying up on the forecastle because they were drunk. We had a few female ensigns, never been on ships before, whatever, thinking they're going to drown, die, whatever. I mean, we're in port, whatever. It might have been a Liberty boat or whatever, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. We're not out like 50 miles in the middle of the ocean, dead in the water. But yeah, just, put it out. And I didn't expect anything for it, but they gave a OSSN a NAM for putting the SCBA on who just got to the ship. And, of course, we get investigated because that's what happens. And some LDO comes out, and he starts asking questions like, so if you could have went with PKP, what if you went with PKP? And I'm like, absolutely not. And he's like, why not? I said, because there's electrical components, and PKP has no reflash capabilities, and we were getting oxygen in space, and CO2 failed, so PKP is just going to make it a mess. I'm not going to be able to see what's going on in the box, and it's just not going to work. He's like, I'm going to ask you again. I said, well, I'm not going to change my answer. There was an LDO engineman, and he really wanted me to change my answer. I'm like, I'm not changing my answer. And then he's like, well, you're the EDO. Why didn't you stay in CCS? I said, well, what would you do if you're a DCC and you got a GSE 1 who is the EAL qualified person in the section? Where would you put the EAL and where would you put the DCC? He's like, well, you're the EDO. I said, well, okay, well, where's common sense? Let's. And I was just a jackwagon. So anyway, I just wouldn't change my mind, and nothing happened. I think at the end of the day, they're like, well, this dude actually made the right call. But we put it out, and it ended up making us have to come back. We couldn't do the mid-voyage repair there. We had to come back all the way up to the States. And I think that shortened our underway time down there, maybe or maybe not. I don't remember 100%, but I know we went back down. So, but that was my only real fire on in my career. So, put it out.
That's not a bad thing, right? That's not a bad.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing, man. I tell people that all the time. The goal on the ships is to not have fires. The goal is to not have fires, not have toxic gas, not have medical casualties, and be prepared, God forbid, for the day that we have the bad days,
Yeah.
So after the Halliburton, what are you looking at doing now? I mean, you're 17 years in the Navy at that point, 16 years?
I got there. I get off Halliburton at 2008. So that's 15 years exactly, pretty much.
Okay.
But I went to mass in 4, so I'm still kind of on the bad list. And of course, it was July-ish, So I go to ATG, and right there at Mayport. And
Okay.
the problem with ATG wasn't ATG. The problem with ATG was they had 6 DCCs check in before me that year, and they all got Ps. And ATG's, a P, MP, EP, unless something breaks that up for some reason. So I got a knob, and then the next year they gave me a 14-month P, and I was mad. But they had to give all the MPs to the 2-year guys at ATG. But some of those guys, are DIW. They're not going back to the fleet. They're shore duty and they're punching out. Even if they made, MCPON, they're gone. They ain't going back to the ship. They're scared of ships. So I get upset about it. And they had talked about IAs before that. So I went down to the dude and I said, the engineering officer, he's a lieutenant commander or commander, and I said, hey, fill out every IA with whatever names you put. The first one, I'm going. He's looking at me like, what? I said, I'm going. So you put me on the first IA. I don't care if it says Jim Smith, cross Jim Smith's name out, put my name on it, and put Jim Smith's on one that's at the back of the end or whatever. Well, the first one came up was Chief of the Guard of Afghanistan. So I was like, all right, I'm ready to rock here, man. I'm going to be, full metal jacket. But like 2 days later, they said, oh, we're pulling back out of Iraq or pulling back out of Afghanistan or whatever. It might have been Iraq. But anyway, I was ready. I was ready to go do my thing. And that never came to fruition. So I put my name back in the hat. I go back and said, hey, reset. I'm on the next one. And it comes up Djibouti, Africa as I think they said like the job description was not what the job was. Oh, CBR manager is I think was the description. And Osborne had been there, if you know James Osborne, DCCM. Yep. And so I had called James one time when he was in the Netherlands to try to get that job. And that sucker said, if you ain't got the quals, Jody, they're not going to let you do it. But that was where you got all the civilian quals. So James had a pretty good, background and all that stuff. And made, I think he ended up getting a fleet out there in San Diego after doing
he was Surface Forces Pacific Master Chief when he retired.
Okay. Yeah.
He was the CMC detailer. I do remember his path to trying to figure out life in the Navy, right? Yeah. He went through, but he was, like you said, he was a DPOS guy. He was a disaster prep guy.
Yeah.
That had all those NECs. Yeah.
So I get picked up and I show up and there's a senior chief MACS there, Gary Burden. And Gary had never been an MAC. He went to boot camp as a company commander, and he was an SM1, and then makes chief. But they get rid of SMCs while he's at boot camp, and they make an MAC. So now he's an MAC who never even stood a gate watch, and he's up there at boot camp, still MAC in it. But he did so good there, he makes MACS. Now he's an MACS who's never even stood a gate watch. But anyway, so I get to Africa. I did my EXW school, learn how to shoot, blah, 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 whatever, play with guns, Fort Jackson, Humvee rollover, all that nonsense. And I get there and Gary goes, you run decking on ships? And I was like, yeah, I ran decking on, a couple ships. He goes, good, you can run ATTT. I said, what? Dude, that ain't the same thing, man. And you got like 5 MACs here, like what are we doing right now? And he's like, no, bro, ain't nobody ever ran nothing out here, so you about to have to run that. So I'm sitting there sweating bullets, bro. I'm looking up PCIEDs, VBIDs, active shooter, trying to figure out all this nonsense. Now, there was a civilian there that helped me out. He had done but what they were doing, I relieved Justin Jones. And I don't know if you remember Justin Jones. That dude made chief in 7 years. Yeah. Retired at 24. Still same thing. Yeah. And he, why Justin, why he struggled? He never got an engineering qual in his life. And every time he put on his evals said ship's fire marshal. Yeah. Like, you got to graduate from that, bro. That's like your freshman year. That's like JV football. You want to try to get to the next team. But anyway, long story short, they ran 2 drills the year before. Citadel curtain, solid, whatever, Citadel shield, whatever that nonsense is, that fake shit. It's just a demo is what it is. Nobody does anything. Helicopters supposed to be landing. That's where they would land, whatever. All that nonsense. Anyway, I put it together, man. We ran 70-something drills over like 4 months. And I had the Puerto Rican National Guard in there, and then the Kansas National Guard. And finally, the CO tapped out. He's like, Jody, you got to stop running drills, man. I said, that's how we get good, sir. You know, we run drills to be good. I said, something happens, we're ready. And we had QRF. We had I had the bomb guys, the EOD guys with the robot going into the there's a bar there if you've never been to Djibouti, 11 degrees, and getting, a water bag or something like that. Man, it was some good high-tech training for all our guys and good high-tech experience for me. So I got base emergency manager. I got you get your CDO, you get your other things. But I was in charge of the fire department, basically telling them, making sure they're doing their training. And anytime they were landing UAVs, I had to go out to the flight line, because a lot of times they would have missiles still on because it didn't go off or a wheel doesn't drop down on one of those Predators. When we were not bombing Yemen every other day. But it was a great experience for me. I got ranked, number 1 of 7 chiefs, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I worked in the office with a guy named Mitch Jones. He was a former HTC who went LDO Chang and then said, I'm getting out of the Navy, screw this. And they said, no, we'll keep you, we'll put you a security officer. And he used to call me Dead Cell. And Mitch Jones was a cool dude, man. He was a good dude. So I worked in the office with him. Yeah, he always called me Dead Cell. But I was the LCPO and he loved me. And he gave me a really good, recommendation letter when I put in for warrant and all that stuff later. But 2 funny things on the CDO job. You're in Africa, man. It's straight out. I mean, there's wild dogs on the base. Like, you see them wild dogs out there running in packs of 50 when you're watching National Geographic shit. Yeah. I saw one day I was out there walking the track, and I saw a rabbit go by me. And I mean, that dude, I was like, man, that rabbit's fast. Then I saw 2 wild dogs right behind him. I said, that's why he's fast. There's 2 wild dogs right behind him on base. So, but I get a call on CDO. And I get a call and it said, hey, a kid get bit by a scorpion out at the cheetah refuge. I'm like, all right, well, we ain't got nothing out there. Djibouti ain't got no capabilities to do any of that shit. So I go to the fire department and I say, hey, man, you need to go pick up this kid, bring him back to base, make sure he's good to go. And he goes, well, I need someone that's in charge to tell me that. And I said, I'll tell you how in charge I am. If you don't go right now, you'll be on a flight home tomorrow. So figure out what you want to do. So he went and get the kid, and it was a big scorpion. And you find out, later that big scorpions don't have near the venom as baby scorpions. But that's the type of craziness you're dealing with out there, man. Just a kid gets bit. He took his gloves off. He's helping building fences. And he got bit by a scorpion when he went to put his glove back on. It was the scorpion got out of the heat, So weird stuff. But nothing you ever trained for, man. You're not, you're just trying to make good decisions.
I can only imagine. I've been to East Timor once. We pulled in on the ship to do some stuff that was operational. And I remember that watching them sling cows out of a barge onto the pier like cattle. And these horse flies were so big, they were like biting the hell out of you. And I was like, I'm going back down in the ship, bro. I'm out of here. I don't. So, and I'd heard about that IA at Djibouti, and eventually they made it be one of those GSA tours you could take and do 12 months there. And I was tracking a couple of the guys that had done it, and it was on my list if I had to go, because back in those days, it was like, oh, you want to make rank? You got to go to an IA. You gotta go to an IA. So I was looking at that for sure. And then, what's funny is you bring up Jones. I met him when he was at the Naval Safety Center in Norfolk. As a chief. That's where he retired from. We're connected on LinkedIn and stuff.
And he's still there.
He was telling me that same story. He was telling me about. He put Chip's fire marshal, and I was at the time I was a MASH chief, and I was like, well, whatever works for you.
He put the eval he left from the base with. He put authored two documents. And I was like, everything about this guy says he does not want to do his job. Everything that he puts in this eval, and he thought it was the greatest thing ever. And
it's just programmatics, programmatic.
Crazy, but I think he's still at the safety center, and that is a good spot for him.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I get it. So, okay, so you're at Djibouti. Do you go back to ATG Mayport after Djibouti?
Yeah, so I go back to ATG, and I'm feeling good because I got the eval, got another comm, got base emergency manager, command duty officer of a base in foreign country, all this craziness, and I'm thinking I'm good to go. I'm making senior chief. So I extend as soon as I get back. And Keith Tucker was the detailer. So old Keith gives me the go ahead on the thing. Well, I got back in December. It gets up to I think results come out February, right? February or March, and I'm not on the list. So I call Keith Tucker and say, "Hey man, put me on a ship, bro. I ain't staying here for another year as a chief. It ain't gonna help me. I'm going to the ships." And I ended up getting New Orleans out of San Diego, LPD. Obviously, no diesel experience, but but I went out there, and Jim Honia was the CMC. Mm-hmm. So that was a good experience going there as a chief.
What year did you go to New Orleans?
2011, September 16th.
Okay, got it.
So the day of pinning, 15th, 16th, whatever, at the time, pinning day. And of course, the HTC volunteered me to be a side boy. It's like, you jerk off, dude. I'm coming from short duty. You're going to put me in some khakis and make me look like a clown when I get there. Anyway, I did
not only is it a diesel, but it's also a gator.
Yeah.
So now you got to learn ballasting and all that stuff too.
Yep. So I get there, and we were there for about 2 months, and then we deployed with the Marines. And, obviously you're underway those 2 months training up, getting those Marines on and off and doing some different ops. So I was underway pretty much the whole time I got there for the first nine months. But that was a really good ship for me. I was LPO because I was senior to the HTC by years because I made chief real early. But a senior chief was coming in like a month after I got there. So I was like, damn, I'm LPO or LCPO for 1 month. And the HTC's running Decade. So he goes, "You going to take Decade?" I said, "I'm not taking anything until that HTC or the DCCS gets here, because I'm not fixing all your mess if he's taking it, because then he's going to blame it on me, because now I'm the DC, guy running Decade for a month. So you'll run it. He gets there. If he doesn't want it, then I got it." Well, Larry Lopez, he had just showed up from 18 months in Afghanistan and made chief and senior chief out there somehow. So he was a 16-year first class. Next thing you know, he's an 18-year senior chief. So a little bit of quick advancement for Larry. So he's a little bit out of touch with a lot of the shipboard stuff. And he's like, "No, bro, you can have it." "All right, sorry, I'll take that." So I got Decade. And we deployed, and I'm just doing my thing. Honey's got a really good handle on the Marine Navy cohesion in the mess. So good, the fact that the first time I walked in there and the Marines were in there, they knew our first names. And I was like, I don't even know who this dude is right now. He knows my first name. And then he knew Jamie's name, the HTC. And then he knew the next guy's name. I was like, these dudes are all memorizing our names. We don't know shit, but we're working. And they're sitting there, "Who's this dude?" "Okay, yeah, whatever."
And they're super excited to be in the Chiefs mess, right? Like, I'm a Gator guy. I did a lot of Gators. I was CMC for USS Ashland, LSD 48 as well. And I will tell you, the Marines, especially the gunnies and the master sergeant, they love being in the Chiefs mess, and they want to participate. They want to be a part of it. And I love them, dude. I love the Marines. And I think the other thing was them having to learn how to be back on the ship after going to war and after doing the whole Iraq, Afghanistan thing. That was a unique wake-up call, because a lot of those guys you were meeting had probably already done tours downrange.
Yeah.
Right? And now they're trying to be on ships and trying to figure out how to be a senior NCO on a ship.
Yeah.
So,
laid back.
I love them.
Crazy. They we did a couple different really good events with them. One was in Hong Kong, and I mean, it was really the best of 4 deployments I did with Marines, two in the wardroom, two in the mess. That was the best one, just for like the cohesion part of it.
For sure.
The next one was a little bit different on New Orleans. Wasn't as good. James was gone. But the New Orleans for me was a really good ship, based on like the way the R Division was set up. R Division was really big. You had a lot of guys in the R9. You had a lot of DCs, HTs, and MRs were kind of separate from us, but still with, Decade and all that stuff, you still got to work with them quite a bit. And obviously ballast stops was always something that was going on that we were dealing with.
Right.
My my main objective on there that first deployment was to lose weight, because I got there, 220 or something. I got down to like 175. Man, it was insane. Treadmill all the time. And I didn't stand no watch, because I was kind of getting ready, deck it and all that, kind of getting used to the ship or whatever. Not an excuse, just was what it was. And I make senior. So at the end of the deployment, as soon as we get back, we got back like June 1st and put it on June 2nd or whatever right away. So that was really cool, because I never even got an eval there. And I felt like I might not be getting the right eval with other people haven't been there, and they're just getting their credit for what they've done longer than I'm doing it. So I felt lucky for a change and got selected at that point. But I had already put in for warrant. So because I was like, man, I'm going to chief for 8 years. They don't want me. That's fine. I'll put in for warrant. That's 25% every year. Well, I make senior. Now I'm thinking that they're taking me. Well, they told me to kick rocks. So I didn't make warrant first time I put in. But I was still happy because I made senior chief, and
Right.
that's a good sword to fall on if you have to. And I was happy with that. So we went back in. We went into the yards. And did our whatever you do for yard periods and stuff like that. We got to go to Seattle Seafair after that, coming out, and then we geared up for another deployment with the Marines, and we did a second deployment with them. I put in for warrant again with a waiver, 18-day time, higher tenure waiver or whatever, too much time and rate waiver, and I got selected for warrant on that ship. So that was pretty cool. The chief engineer is the one that made me put in for warrant. He was a former ENC LDO. They put LDOs on LPDs, maybe even on LSDs as well.
They do.
And he's like, yeah, you probably need to put in for warrant. And I did. So I got selected. Fortunate enough to get selected. But he was a beast. Dave Elmer was a dude. If there's a flood, he's down in the space. I'm like, hey, bro, get out of here, man. He's like, no, I like this shit. He's down, lieutenant commander trying to put on a soft patch or something crazy.
Yeah.
And when we were coming back from that first deployment, he's like, I'm lighting off water mist. I was like, well, I've never seen it lit off. He's like, well, I don't care. They said at the school you could do it, so we're doing it. They just went down and hit the buttons, man. No, nothing on it. No socks, nothing. We're just lighting off water mist. I'm like, this dude is out of his mind. One of them was actually in the bathroom down in the engine room, so it cleaned the bathroom pretty good for him. Silly stuff like that. But one of the underway times after that, I showed him every AFFF. Every AFFF had station had exposed wires off the SOPVs. He had 7 stations, probably 40 SOPVs, so 3 wires on each. So you're talking, 120 wires. I said, we are going to jail. We are done as soon as ATG gets here. So we put them all into jobs, and they came and fixed them with shrink wrap or whatever they did. So I got me some street cred with him with that stuff. And then one day he calls me down to CCS. We're underway for something, and he's like, hey, you ready to light off countermeasure washdown in 8 minutes? I said, no, I'm not. He goes, Larry didn't tell you, or senior didn't tell you? I said, no, I didn't know anything about it. He goes, well, we're lighting it off in 8 minutes. I said, well, you know what? If I had about 12 minutes, I'd be fine. So we're going to run about 5 minutes late. And I went up there, got all my people that quick, and we went and did it. And he's like, well done, senior, whatever. Anyway, so we got it done. It just slipped Larry's mind. No big deal.
Yeah.
But something crazy happened on Pearl Harbor, and the DCCS wasn't on the ship. He did something and wasn't coming back. So I'm like, man, I'm the new senior chief. I'm going to Pearl Harbor, and they're getting ready to go right through the training cycle. So I'm figuring as soon as I get over there, I'm in it to win it. They're not gonna take me back. So I go to the Chang and I said, hey, when do I go to the Pearl Harbor? This was funny. It's still Dave Elmer. He goes, you ain't going nowhere. I said, well, Larry's like 3 years senior to me or whatever. He goes, yeah, but you're the one that does all the work. So you're staying and he's going. So I laughed about it. And then, of course, immediately Larry's like, hey, can you come over Monday and Tuesday and demonstrate Halon and then, all that stuff. So I went over there and helped, of course. It took a couple of my, my good guys because he didn't know anybody over there. And the ship already had kind of a bad reputation from the DCCS. But we went over there and smoked it. And I remember, the ATG guy was there, and I was doing one of the spaces, Aux 1, Main 1. I said, hey, you go get that time delay off of Hazmat right now. And the guy goes, we're doing Hazmat next week. The ATG guy I go, well, this is this week. And we're doing Main 1 right now. And I'll get you a new time delay before next week. So I think they kind of figured out, like, all right, well, we better just get this shit done. This dude's for real. So we got through all that. I had the XO making copies of the Halon station light-off stuff because he had come down. I said, I need 7 copies of this. Sent him off because I don't have a copy machine. I don't got access to nothing on the ship. I'm just there as a freeloader for 2 days. But, we got through it for him. And then Larry stayed over there for a little bit of time longer. And then I don't know if he came back or not. Not because I think he might have transitioned to shore duty or something, I believe. But
I think Larry, he went to ATG after that, didn't he?
He might have. Yeah, Larry might have went to ATG San Diego. Yeah, he's got a job on there as GS-12. He's a good dude. Larry is a good dude. Fun dude. I'm going to San Diego coming up at the end of the month for DCCM Almada's retirement.
Nice.
So he was on Halliburton with me. I was his first sea daddy. And I made him our PPO, and I used to send him down to Halliburton Supply. And I said, just sit in that shop and don't leave until they approve the parts. Like, what? I said, you just sit in supply until they approve the parts. I don't care if it's all day. And they would get to him like, hey, dude, what are you still doing in here? We told you no. He goes, well, Chief said I can't leave until you approve the parts. So you're going to have to approve the parts or I'm just going to be here. And it worked, man. It ended up working. They would just approve the parts. And Almada was always a likable person, too. When they seen him, it's like you always got a smile on your face. People like you. Almada is just like that, too. So he's super well-liked. But he asked me to go out to his retirement and speak. So I'll go do that at the end of the month.
That's very special, man. That's awesome. So you after New Orleans, now you commissioned on New Orleans?
Yeah, I commissioned on New Orleans. Obviously at the end of my tour, I actually put Almada's hat on him. He made chief that year. He was instructor of the year, 2014. So September 15th, 16th, whenever they did it, I put his cover on for him. And then 15 days later, I commissioned and left to go to Knife and Fork School up in Rhode Island. My former Chang was now the detailer for warrant officers and whatever. And I had already taken orders to the New York as a DCCS. I was going back-to-back ships, and then I was going to go to ATG or whatever and retire, hopefully make Master Chief in the mix of that. Got my EL letter, so I had another EL letter. I was going to get a back-to-back EL letter, and I got to New York right away, run deck it, whatever. And he goes, hey, man, I know you couldn't go, you can't go no more as a senior chief. Would you go there as a DCA? I said, absolutely. So he called the DCA and said, hey, do you want to miss 3 months of deployment? And the guy's like, yeah, I'll go back home because they're already geo-batching in Mayport. Their whole families were back in Norfolk. He goes, sure thing. So I did like a 48 hour turnover with that dude. And he was back home and I'm on the ship getting ready to deploy. We deployed within 7 days of me getting there. And that was the New York out of Mayport.
I was going to ask you that. So that was when they had the Gators in Mayport.
Yeah.
Was Izzy the CMC at that time? Did you know the CMC?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
He was the CMC. Okay. Yeah. So how was that going and being a DCA on an LPP-17?
So I knew my job, right? Because the only thing I didn't have a lot of experience with was ballasting because they made the DCA do it in San Diego. Right. So I had to do the ballasting pretty much right away. But I'm a math dude. And all I had to do was look at previous ballast loads, and it wasn't that hard to figure out. I did the ballast demos and all that nonsense when I had to. But it was good because, I knew our division. And when we got underway for deployment, maybe 48 hours in, I still hadn't even ran a drill as DCA or any of that nonsense. And we get a report of white smoke up forward in front of Repair 2. So I run down, take over, this is DCA, assume all responsibilities, damn patrol officer, whatever. And the kid's on the radio, and he's like, I need DCC or DCA up here, man. We got a Bravo fire. I'm like, there's no fuel up there. Yeah. And I don't even pause. The XO and the CO are there. They don't even know who I am. I haven't even checked in with them yet. And I said, Chief, put on an SCBA. It was DCC Montoya. I said, Chief, put on an SCBA and go tell me what we got because that kid's full of shit. And those two were like, whoa, like, who is this dude? You know, how did this dude get here? Where's this guy from? But anyway, he went up there and he's like, hey, sir, it's a Frozen fan. I've already secured the power. You know, we're good to go. I'm going to get the electrician up here. We'll tag it out, get it ready to rewire and all that. And then the CO, he was an aviator. So, of course, he was scared shitless because he was like, I'm never making anything else ever it is. You know, he don't even want to be on this ship. He just ended up probably having to get stuck with those.
Trying to do his deep draft tour.
Yeah. So he talked about it on the 1MC. And New York turned out to be a really good tour for me. I extended a year there. Got another EI letter, got my swole pin, got my OD. I didn't go into combat. I avoided that. I think one of the things that helped me on New Orleans really understand the engineering plan. I was special scene anchor EI. I was a DCCS. The ENCM would go into the space, so if something happened, you could fix it. You know, because from CCS he's handicapped. But I did special evolution EI forever on that ship on New Orleans. But fast forward back to New York, that was where I got a lot of my calls I had to, and got introduced to the wardroom. I did not get along with Shane. I didn't, because I was trying to get I wanted to get the 4 sailors, junior sailor of the year, sailor of the year, senior sailor of the year, and then whatever, the 4. I wanted to get E3, E4, E5, E6 sailor of the quarter awards, and he didn't want to do that. And I was like, it just costs us an extra plaque, 4 times a year, and you recognize another sailor. He's like, well, E4s can beat E5s. I said, well, they never do. E5s are works under soups. They don't lose to E4s that are, special workers. And I went to the XO about it, and then I went to the CO about it. And long story short, when he left, he got a comm from that ship. And he could be tight with you. He could be your best friend. I'm not mad. Everybody gets along with everybody different. I think he thought I sold out, whatever like that. And then we introduced it right away, and we started doing the 4 sailors of the quarter instead of 3. So whether I was right or wrong, I got it into the CO's head.
And you said this was the chief engineer that was pushing back on you on this?
No, that was his.
Oh, the CMC.
Yeah, that was his.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I thought you said that was the Chang, and I was trying to figure out why the Chang came. So you had the idea for the 4 sailor of the quarter competitive season, and the master didn't want it. Oh yeah, you were all in his weedies.
Yeah. So
you were all in his weedies.
Yeah, and I came. So they did it on New Orleans. So I was like, hey, we did this on New Orleans. This was a good thing. He's like, I'm not a fan of it. That's what he said. Yeah. And they ended up. He ended up knocking heads with the CO about other stuff, I'm sure, because they wouldn't have gave him that award for no reason. But he went on to be too fine.
I don't know that much information. I will tell you that Izzy did well for me and my family when he was the detailer, man.
Yeah.
He took good care of us. And so I've got nothing but good things to say about him. But I can say that after having been a CMC, I can imagine that whole dynamic happening and that whole conversation. And then knowing you and hearing your past and how passionate you are about things, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, you're a warrant officer, but you're also a deck plate guy. Yeah. I can see how that whole thing is transpiring.
Yeah. So he didn't. I'm sure it kind of burned him up a little bit. But I went to him first. It wasn't like it was.
No, it's his program, right? Yeah. That's his job to make sure he gets the SOQ stuff done. On the reverse, I have had that exact same conversation. And the biggest challenge I would say from his perspective is getting the damn packages in, right? Yeah. It's like pulling freaking teeth, bro, to get the packages in. I used to have to walk around the ship and like basically threaten my department LCPOs, like, bro, I got to the point where I made the packages so simple that it was not overly complicated. That's a problem. They're all overly complicated, right? Yeah. And what really matters is the board, not the package.
Yep.
We all know these kids, right? We all know these sailors. We're not going to BS anybody with packages that are all the same words every time. You're just copy and pasting, bro. Like, that don't work. The board is what matters. But I can see that. So after after doing the New York, now you're doing 2 LPD 17s. Are you staying on as a warrant officer, where do you go? Do you got to go to another ship up to New York?
Yeah, so it's 5 years. Even though I just came from 3 years, those years didn't count from New
Yeah.
Orleans down to New York. And I'm a ship dude. I don't care. I'm immune to that pain. It doesn't not matter. So I want to stay in Mayport, and there's one job as chief engineer on a PC. So I said I'm taking that. So I called a detailer a day early. He goes, "That job's not available. You're not in your window." I said, "Okay, I'll call you back in 24 hours." So I called him back 24 hours. He's like, "Okay, you're in your window," and he gave me the orders. So I go to Chang School, and then go down and take that job. But the problem was the ship's supposed to be in Mayport. Norfolk won the bid, so we're back up in Norfolk, living on a P-Town base in barracks, geo-batching for a year of my 18 months there. So that was miserable, just for family dynamics and all that. And I ended up just renting an apartment because I told my wife if she comes up, I'll rent an apartment. If not, I'll just stay in the barracks. And she came up because our house down in Jacksonville was paid off, so it wasn't like it was 2 payments or anything like that. And her mom just stayed down there and kind of kept that one running while we were up there. So it paid off. And obviously that tour was good for me, being a chief engineer, having way more responsibility than ever. Even though it's a small ship, you still have all the same programs. You still have to pass all the same drills. And, I would look through the books, and the guy before was an ENCS, and that dude was squared away, man. Unbelievably squared away. Vince, can't remember Vince's last name, but super squared away. And he'd want to go walk the ship every day in the yards. And I'm like, Vince, we walked the ship twice. There's no hull. There's nothing on the boat. I'm not going back over there. The engines aren't there. The generators are not there. I'm not going to look at it again with you, bro. And he's like, well, I'm going. I said, all right, Vince, you have a good, safe walk. I just was not doing it, And but when I got to read some of this stuff, man, they passed 1 out of 10 DC drills and got recommended to move on before I got there. And I'm like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
And none of the halon lights worked. It was just you get back in there, next thing you know, you're a DC CS again, or DC, whatever, doing your job. I'm in there changing halon hoses with Dre. If you remember DCCM from the Bahamas, he plays I can't remember his last name, but Andre's his first name, but we called him Dre. But he's a Mayport guy for the most part. Plays a lot of music, but good dude. And he came and helped me. It was me and him on a Sunday doing all the halon bottles. I had no DC1, and then they give me a DC1. The first thing he does is almost knocks himself out with a PKP bottle out of the PKP rack on the shipyard. I was like, this is like Comedy Show Central or something. This is not happening, man. This dude's a complete goof. But whatever, just shit happens. And then I got a real good DC1. The influence that made that job fun was I got 5 guys EL letters that were 3 were E5s. So I got 3 E5s EL letters and 2 first classes. I got a DC1 and EL letter in like 45 days. And I wrote him such a dynamic E valve after he got 3 straight P's at Cermak. I said, dude, I need to get 3 straight P's at Cermak, man. What are you doing over there? That's not effective. It's not that hard, bro. Grab a door or something, man. Do something. Powder coat something. But anyway, he makes chief off that eval. And I wrote he showed up to a ship at 48% damage control readiness and had it at 95 within 48 hours. And, I wrote all this craziness, qualified EL in 41 days to help the watch, all that stuff. And he makes chief, and then he just picked up senior chief. So he's on the fast track now.
How was the PC? What's the deployment like on a PC? Do you guys deploy?
So I get seasick quite a bit. So that was what that was about. Yeah, getting seasick. Yeah, I get seasick on big devs, man. So
me too.
We went down to what happened was this ship could do with 36 knots, but they said it had hull thinness. So we're going deployment to chase drug boats, and our max speed authorizes 15 knots. So we're off the coast of Cuba. You're out 7 days. You got to come back in and refuel. You stay in overnight and go back out 7 days. So a 7-day trip's not too bad, whatever. But it was during COVID, so you couldn't go to the base and buy anything. Everything was restricted. You couldn't go to any. There was no ports, but you just pulled.
I know. I was Naval Base Guam CMC at that time. We were the only port open in the whole Pacific Theater, bro. Trust me, that was a goat rope.
Yeah. So I sat in a hotel 2 weeks before the 2 week get ready to go on deployment, and then I sat on the boat for 2 weeks in port while the other team sat in the hotel. So I was on the boat for a month before deployment anyway, or restricted, whatever you want to say. But no, it was a good tour, man. I liked it. We decommed that ship. I know on the last 3 days up to Philadelphia, I ralphed about 7 times, because it was rough weather going into Philly. So that was miserable.
Brother,
But
I used to always take all my own meclizine, my own
Yeah.
medication underway.
yeah,
Yeah, trust me. People don't understand how I respect the grit it takes from you to sustain a career in the United States Navy, knowing you got seasick the whole time, because I did that too.
yeah,
And that was the first thing I told my commanding officer as the CMC. I said, day one, sir, I just need you to hear it right now. I get seasick.
yeah.
So I will be where you need me to be, and I will be there when I got to be there. But outside of those times, I might not be around, depending upon how bad the sea state is, right?
Or you
And,
might see me with
and
a
that was
small
it.
trash can. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember the second CO came and we got underway, and I was ralphing. And so he asked one of the lieutenants, like, hey, what's up with the Chang? Is he drunk? And the guy goes, oh, no, he gets seasick all the time. The guy was like, oh, okay. So it was funny because he thought I was drunk. I'm like, I didn't drink it. I ain't
Yeah.
drinking before we get underway. But
So after you finish that tour, then you're probably getting to the. I mean, when did you retire?
I retired November of 23.
Okay.
So this is around March of 21, and I already have my EXW. I got it when I was in Africa, but they denied the waiver, so I have to go back to. I ended up tearing my rotator cuff in my right bicep, so I deployed with that. I didn't care. I said I'm deploying. I'm not getting off the ship until I'll get the surgery after. So now I got to go to EXW school again, and this one is way more advanced. You got to carry bodies off the field and stuff like that. I got a torn rotator cuff, torn right bicep, and I've only been out of surgery 4 months, and it takes about a year to heal. Anyway, so I go through that school. I'm going to Bahrain to be the maintenance officer at MESG2. And this, I see your time's running. So I get there, and the Mark 6 boats are already getting ready to be sundown, basically decommed. And so what I started doing was I had about 6 people, and I had them all enrolled in college. I had guys going over to ships to get quals, engine men that didn't have EL quals and stuff like that. And then, other goals, saving for this, saving for that. And I got it all on a board. The old CO leaves, the new CO comes in, and he comes over, and we're in the warehouse, man. It's, we got an AC room. We kind of hooked it up, me and a mass chief, Sean Etheridge, real good dude. And he comes over and he's looking at the board. He goes, what is this? I said, this is where my people are at. I got this guy on this boat, this guy on this boat. This girl's doing this. This girl's working on her package for officer, whatever. And he goes, and have the idea that I was going to work in civilian clothes and leaving by noon, getting there at 9, leaving at noon. Like, my day was great. And that guy goes, I need you in the building. I was like, what? And that was it, man. And then I was over there every day from 7:30 till like 1800. I was ops, AOP. So now I'm, board getting embark security teams on USNS ships and all that nonsense. So doing some bunch of crazy stuff. The gun mounts for the 240s went down. I went over to FDRMC, got an HT2 to fix them, and then they were all 360 swivel. And then one of the gun ranges went down, and it was a Conex box, and I'm like, I can fix that. And the SOPO goes, you can't. And I said, no, I can. You're saying I can't, but I know I can. And the CEO's just like, looking at me. He's like, Jody, what do we got to do? I said, sir, I'll take an electrician over there, an ET, and we'll get that fixed. And Suppo's still saying no, and I'm still saying I don't care what he says. Finally, Suppo figures out that things aren't under warranty. They're 30 years old. Like, because the British company that worked on them said, we'll charge you $40,000. $13 later, we had a good gun range. So with a good ET and a good and a good electrician. So we got that up. And I mean, that was kind of, I just kind of looked out for people and did whatever I did over there. Did a lot of TSP training, stuff like that. And, got guys on boats that needed to get the quals that they needed to do to get advanced and stuff like that. So it was a good experience, but it was definitely like my second time being totally out of what I would normally be doing. And then my last tour was they wanted me to be OIC at the schoolhouse for just engineering over at Mayport. And I said, I get out, I'm going on Skillbridge, man. I ain't doing that nonsense. Get lost. And so I just went over there as a pseudo instructor. And then 4 months later, I went on Skillbridge. And then I retired at the end of November of 23. So that wrapped me up.
Very cool, man. Quite the journey, brother.
Yeah.
And how did you stumble into Edward Jones?
So my buddy, I told you, Hector, the one who was going to get out and go be a real estate agent, ended up staying in the Navy, making NCCS recruiter. And I had a good amount of money in TSP, but I couldn't do anything with it. I couldn't add any money to it, which you can now, but I couldn't then. So, but now that if you got the right disability percentage, you can still add to it, which at that time you couldn't. So I said, I want to be able to put money into it, which I still haven't, but and have control of it. So I give it to Hector. He's already at Edward Jones, but I'm telling him what to do because I've been investing since like 2001. And he's like, man, you should probably look at this job, man. It's a good job. And I had already sat around for a year. I had looked into a bunch of different jobs. Carnival Cruise Line offered me a job. The post office offered me a job as like a rural route carrier. Carnival Cruise Line is only like 80,000. And I was like, I'm not moving to Miami for 80 grand. And then rural route carrier, I had a big truck and I got a Cadillac Blackwing. So I'm not going to be driving that, delivering the mail. And Argos, which is a cement factory out there, they were going to give me an entry-level position on a night shift. And my wife basically said she'll leave me if I take that job because I've never been home anyway. So so I ended up just kind of, vegging out for about a year. And then Hector said, hey, you should do this. And that's what I did. And one of my masks actually held me back for a while. So making the diplomas to get kids in, it said that on there, it said false enlistment and something else. And my mask did not say that. So that might have been the original charges, but like 13 recruiters got in trouble at the same time at that time. So anyway, I'm calling everybody. I know a dude, the FBI, I know a guy, LAPD, know a guy, retired detective, NYPD. I'm calling all these people. And everybody's telling me kick rocks. We don't have that information. I'm like, well, where's the FBI get the report from? And they're like, NCIS. I called dude at NCIS and I sent them all my paperwork. And this took like 3 months because I went the wrong route the whole way because nobody knew the right answer. And that guy, he goes, give me a week and I'll get back to you. And he came back with it and he goes, all right, I see where none of this stuff happened. You never went to court. You never went to jail. Because it was like an arrest the way it was written. And I was like, that never happened, man. I didn't even get busted down. But anyway, that's how it got cleared. And I got through their background check with no other issues. And then started all those classes, Series 6, Series 7, SIE, state life insurance, all that.
Very cool. That's very awesome, man. All right. Well, hey, as we land this plane here, Jody, I'm going to ask you some questions, rapid fire. And you're not going to, don't nuke it, bro. Just go and hit that. All right.
Got it.
All right. Here we go. Looking back on your career, right? What was let's go ahead and go this way. It's Saturday night. You're on the ship. Are you looking forward to pizza or wings?
Pizza.
Pizza. Okay.
New York.
All right, bro. I got 2 places I could use you. Birthing or the working party? Which one do you want?
What, birthing or the working party? Working party.
Yeah. You want the working party? Okay.
Yeah, you can always hide in the working party.
All right, and we're going to watch a movie in the mess, bro. It's either going to be De Niro or Pacino. Which one do you want to watch?
I like them both, but I'll go Pacino.
Pacino, okay. Looking back on your career, what was your favorite duty station?
Recruiting was my favorite duty station. If you go ship New Orleans, man, I had a lot of clout on New Orleans, and that was really a good ship for me.
All right.
So, Bahrain's good.
Okay. What was your favorite Liberty port?
I like Hong Kong. I've been to all of them, Thailand, Philippines, all over South America, but Hong Kong was always good.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging qualification you ever earned throughout your career?
I think I had to study quite a bit for the SWOPIN. Now they don't have to get it, but my combat, I didn't have no combat experience, but I studied it all standing on EAL, so it was all right. So, but yeah, SWOPIN.
And I'll tell you, to that point, one of my favorite things when I was at CMC was going up on the bridge and just hanging out with the captain and the XO and stuff. because people would be like, Master, you're up here again. Like, you guys understand. I didn't grow up coming to the pilot house, right?
Right.
I would go up there, get the draft sign, and go back downstairs. So
Yeah.
it was kind of nice to be up there and seeing all that cool stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I could relate to that for sure. You never did a tour overseas. Well, you did Bahrain, right?
I did Bahrain and Djibouti, but not like Spain, not traditional.
So if you ever had the chance to do it again, would you go overseas or would you go stateside again?
I'd go Spain. I like that base, Rota. Yeah.
Yeah, go Spain. Got it. All right. Do you have a personal leadership philosophy?
I think when you talk about leadership, what a lot of leaders fail to realize is when their people are doing good, that means that leader is doing good, because the people ain't doing it by themselves. But sometimes they don't take the time to look at it, and they're over analyzing, and they're trying to do more and more and more. Hey, if your guys got the wheels greased and it's moving, you're doing something right. So
yeah, definitely. All right. So in the Chiefs mess, we got deck plate leadership, institutional technical expertise, professionalism, character, loyalty, active communication, and a sense of heritage. Those were the guiding principles from the Chiefs mess. And out of those ones, which one was your favorite?
I think deck plate leadership, because when you're with your people, they see you give a shit. If you're just saying it at quarters and then you're going to go hide, or you got watch and you can't be there, especially when they have questions or when they have problems or concerns, and you get to know your people, and knowing your people is really what's important. So.
Yep. For sure. And when I think deck plate leadership, that's leadership by action, like by example.
Yep.
It's not just telling them what to do. It's actually being down there doing it with them, for sure. All right. Would you rather lead or follow?
Always lead.
Always lead. All right, brother. That's it, man. Do you have any saved rounds or alibis?
What I'll say is this. This was a philosophy, and I wrote this down because we didn't get a chance to talk about it. We went in so many different directions. I think the process for sailors, you take a below average sailor, you make them average. You take an average sailor, you make them good. You take a good sailor, you make them great. You take the great sailors and you make them Master Chiefs or warrant officers. And I think that's a process. That might be that first ship, that second duty station. It doesn't all happen overnight, but that's what leadership is making your people better on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, and making those guys achieve what they never thought they could achieve. So sometimes it's a long process.
I love it, man. I love the framework of it too, because I can apply that to a bunch of different things in life, and it shows somebody just a logical progression, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're all looking for a way to quantify and qualify what we're doing, because especially for the hard workers, because they're working their ass off, but it's like, how do I say what I'm doing? Because I know I'm doing a lot, but how do I qualify what matters, or how do I quantify what I've done? And that's whether me as a husband, me as a father, me as a teacher, me as a chief petty officer, like all these different areas, we're all looking for growth. And someday we can be old fuckers, old people, and we're trying to figure out, like, did I do good, right? And hopefully you got a whole bunch of people in your life that can say, like, call you up and say, brother, can you come speak in my retirement? Like, that means you did good, bro. Like, that means you did good. That's like one of the biggest honors in the world, man. Thank you very much, bro. And I'll tell you what, that North Star you gave me got put to a lot of damn work. Trust me on that. I leveraged that damn thing until I bought my own again in the future. I got the updated version, but I was always that guy rocking the North Star and studying and preparing and working my butt off to make rank, So thank you for investing in young DC3 Wise. And, here we are now talking about life. So
I made some copies of them and passed them on, so they're still floating around.
That's awesome. Well, brother, good luck to you. Thank you for everything, and just stay in touch, man.
Yeah, you're close enough, man. We'll get lunch one day.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to do it. All right, brother. I'll talk to you later.
All right, boss. Have a good night.
Bye, bro.
Bye.
And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know